Chapter 215. A day later he finally saw the two-headed serpent that could spit out fire and poison. At this time, the two-headed poison-scaled snake had just finished burning a small town and was heading in a certain direction. This two-headed poison-scaled snake doesn't look like it was resurrected using a secret technique, so it doesn't need to eat human corpses. However, there doesn't seem to be anyone from the beast god sect on this two-headed poison-scaled snake. Song Suijing looked at the two-headed snake below. The people from the beast god sect can communicate with spirit beasts and profound beasts, and some can even control them. However, profound beasts are no less intelligent than us humans, so it should be moving on its own. Yixian said slowly, then stood up. You wait on the soaring sky rock, I'll go get rid of this two-headed poison-scaled snake. Song Suijing hurriedly pulled him. I'll go too. No, you little girl actually dared to snatch my inner core. Stay aside, I'll give you the next profound beast. Yixian angrily rubbed Song Suijing's head, then jumped down. You! Before Song Suijing could react, she immediately screamed. However, when she stuck her head out to take a look, she realized that Yixian had landed safely on the ground. She was so scared that her face turned pale. She didn't expect that Yixian would dare to use profound chi to increase his speed when he fell from a height of 50 meters. He was really courting death. Big bird, fly higher. Yixian shouted from below. The soaring sky rock immediately understood, then spread its wings and flew up. As for Yixian, he quickly ran towards the two-headed poison-scaled snake. Although his archery skills were outstanding, this was a profound beast. If he only relied on the high-grade spirit weapon, the heaven-shocking bow, and the earth-level martial arts, he was afraid that his power would be somewhat lacking. Therefore Yixian prepared for close combat. With a wave of his right hand, he directly took out the nebula sword that Grand Elder Zhou Yan had given him, then a large amount of Dan essence suddenly surged out. These elixir essences were attached to the nebula sword. Shortly after, it began to expand slowly, forming a gigantic sword shadow. The giant sword was purple in color, 3 meters wide and 10 meters long. Yixian leaped into the air with the purple greatsword in his hand and slashed at the head of the two-headed poison-scaled beast. Clang! The sword shadow collided with the double-headed poison-scale's hard scales, producing a crisp sound. At this time, the two-headed poison-scale also noticed Yixian. What a joke. Snake-type spirit beasts and Shen beasts were mostly known for their defense. How could it be broken so easily? Hiss. The other fire head of the two-headed poison scale turned around. Then he spat out a fireball at Yixian. F***ck Grand Fireball Technique? Yixian cried out in his heart. His left hand slapped toward the sky. Boom. His elixir essence was unleashed. The powerful impact caused Yixian to fall down instantly, dodging the fireball. It's so hot. If I was hit by it directly, all my hair would be burned off. Yixian didn't dare to be careless. After all, this was a Shen beast that had just broken through to the mortal core realm. If he made the slightest mistake, he would have to pay with blood. By now, Yixian had understood the defensive strength of this two-headed poison-scaled beast. He knew that even if he had an Earth-rank weapon and an Earth-rank martial skill, it would still be very difficult for him to kill it. After all, this two-headed poison-scaled beast was over 20 meters tall. He would have to jump up in order to hit its head. Therefore there was only one way. Damn it, I'm going to have to spend a lot of money. Yixian made up his mind. He used 3 billion devour points to exchange for a new Earth-rank weapon. At the same time he also bought an Earth-rank martial skill. Thunder Arrow. He suddenly pulled the string of the Earth-rank bow to its fullest. As he loosened his right hand, the core arrow turned into a lightning bolt and pierced through the two-headed poison-scaled beast's scales, penetrating its body. Hiss. The two-headed poison-scaled beast let out a painful cry. After that, it opened both of its mouths and spat out a fireball and a ball of poisonous liquid towards Yixian. Facing this attack, Yixian calmly dodged it with an Earth-rank movement skill. After that, he pulled the string of the bow again. Swoosh. Another lightning bolt was shot into the two-headed poison-scaled beast's body. This thunder arrow had a penetrative ability that was 100 times stronger than Great Shot, and it also had a paralyzing effect. After being shot twice, the two-headed poison-scaled beast's speed had slowed down. Therefore the threat it posed to Yixian was getting smaller and smaller. I hate snakes the most. Hurry up and die. Help me break through to the divine core realm. Yixian shouted in his mind as he continued shooting. Swoosh. 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 More and more lightning bolts were shot into the two-headed poison-scaled beast's body, slowly wearing away its spirit. In less than a minute, there were dozens of bloody holes on its body caused by the lightning bolts, and a faint burnt smell could be smelled from them. If it was any other ordinary divine core warrior, perhaps he wouldn't be able to do anything to this two-headed poison-scaled beast. This chapter is not finished, please turn to the next page. In a terrible state of distress. But Yi Xian was different, he could easily deal with it. The only problem was that he didn't have enough core energy left in his body. Last arrow. Yi Xian's eyes flickered. He immediately gathered all the remaining core energy in his body. This time he paused for 2 full seconds. A lightning bolt flashed by, and the thunder arrow penetrated into a strange spot on the two-headed poison-scaled beast's body. 7 inches. The two-headed poison-scaled beast's heart was pierced through, and it was roasted. That was why it died in an instant. Plop. 2 huge heads fell onto the ground, causing the ground to tremble violently. After that, Yi Xian took a big stride forward and pressed his hand on the two-headed poison-scaled beast's body. Devour. Ding, host has devoured a dark beast's corpse, the reward is 300 million points. Ding, host has devoured a dark beast's inner core, the reward is 3 billion points. Ding, host has met the requirement to break through to the divine core realm. When Yi Xian heard the notifications in his mind, he couldn't help but let out a few wild roars towards the sky. Finally he had broken through to the divine core realm. Although he had just broken through to the mortal core realm, his overall strength was several times stronger than before, or even dozens of times stronger. Ding, myriad beast bloodline fusion successful. Ding, thunderclap panther bloodline fusion successful. Ding, myriad flower bloodline fusion successful. Ding, sword emperor bloodline fusion successful. Ding, fist emperor bloodline fusion successful. Ding, overlord arrow bloodline fusion successful. All of these useful bloodlines were leveled up by Yi Xian, and all of his devour points were used up. Ah! Yi Xian's laughter sounded out like thunder. In the sky, Song Suijing was puzzled. She mumbled to herself, "Is this bastard crazy? Didn't he just kill a dark beast? Many senior disciples on the heavenly ranking have killed dark beasts before." However, she was still envious of Yi Xian, because he had obtained a dark beast's inner core. As long as he successfully fused with it, he would break through to the divine core realm. Right at this moment, Yi Xian was still standing on the ground. After breaking through, there were still many notifications from the system. End of chapter. Chapter 216. What? All top-tier bloodlines are unique. The Sword Emperor, Arrow Venerable, and Fist Emperor bloodlines can't coexist. You can only choose one. Myriad Beasts bloodline, Thunderclap Leopard bloodline, and other body-type bloodlines can only be chosen one. And support-type bloodlines like the Myriad Flowers bloodline, damn it, I can only choose one to upgrade to the top tier. Isn't this a scam? Yi Xian felt like crying. This meant that he was going to be in a lot of trouble in the future. Now he roughly understood that bloodlines were divided into combat bloodlines, body-type bloodlines, and support-type bloodlines. In other words, from now on he could only upgrade 3 bloodlines to the top tier and start focusing on bloodline specialization. After that, he saw the option to expand bloodlines in the devouring system. He could spend a huge amount of points to increase the number of top-tier bloodlines. He was immediately overjoyed. It looked like all he needed was money. However, when he saw the price of the expansion, his eyes almost went blind. Wasn't this a bit too much? Forget it, I've just broken through to the divine core realm, and if I want to merge with a top-tier bloodline, I think I'll need to break through to the 4th level of the spirit realm. Let's not think too much about it. Yi Xian remained calm. He had now broken through to the divine core realm, and he could be considered as having just broken through to the mortal core realm. There was also a tiny particle in his golden dantian. This was the mortal core. Not only that, all the profound energy in his body had been transformed into core energy, and its strength had increased. In the future, when he used his core energy through the mortal core, its strength would increase by several folds. The mortal core was the difference between the divine core realm and the half-step origin core realm. With my current strength, I think I can smash this double-headed poison scale's head with a single punch. Yi Xian clenched his right fist tightly, and a confident look emerged in his eyes. He estimated that his current strength was at least dozens of times stronger than before. He was confident that he could even send an initial mortal core warrior flying with a single punch. If that old great emperor from the Great Tang dynasty encountered him, he would definitely be killed in an instant. Diske, let's give Kai Jing a surprise first. Yi Xian smiled. He raised his head and immediately saw the soaring rock that was 100 meters high up in the sky. Swoosh. In an instant he disappeared, not even an afterimage was left behind. Puff, puff, puff. This chapter is not finished, please turn the page. Yi Xian tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and sprinted towards the soaring sky rock like a bolt of lightning. Then he suddenly stomped on the ground and jumped up into the air. Song Suijing, who was on the soaring sky rock's back, could still see Yi Xian's figure, but in the blink of an eye she could no longer find Yi Xian. Where is he? Song Suijing could not help but mutter. As soon as she finished speaking, a figure landed on the soaring sky rock's back. Before she could react, the figure quickly arrived behind her and placed his right hand on her shoulder. Song Suijing's delicate body trembled violently as her eyes widened. She suddenly took out the autumn water sword and stabbed behind her. Hiss. The sound of a sword piercing into flesh could be heard. When Song Suijing finally reacted, she discovered that the person standing in front of her was actually Yi Xian. Why is it you? Song Suijing cried out in alarm as she hurriedly pulled the sword out of Yi Xian's body. Girl, your reaction is quite fast. You stabbed my kidney. If you damaged it, how are you going to compensate me? Yi Xian glared at Song Suijing. Sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't know it was you. Song Suijing said guiltily as she hurriedly took out healing medicine from her universe ring and prepared to apply it on Yi Xian's wound. However, at this moment Yi Xian suddenly grabbed her wrist. My stab is quite deep. Aren't you going to stop the bleeding? Song Suijing anxiously looked at Yi Xian's bleeding wound. Take a closer look. Yi Xian tore open the hole in his clothes. Song Suijing was very puzzled, but in the next moment her expression froze. She saw that the wound on Yi Xian's waist was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few breaths it was completely healed. How was this possible? Song Suijing was so shocked that she couldn't speak. She hurriedly wiped away the blood. Sure enough, the wound had already healed and there wasn't even a scar. It was as if nothing had happened. Don't worry. My body tempering technique is very special. My recovery speed is extremely fast. Otherwise, do you think I could reconnect my meridians in a day? Yi Xian said with a smile. After upgrading his intermediate 100-flower bloodline to 10,000-flower bloodline, his recovery speed had greatly increased. As long as he wasn't instantly killed in the future, his injuries would quickly heal. He was like a cockroach that couldn't be killed. How is this possible? Is it possible? Song Suijing still could not believe it. If you don't believe me, then try to stab me again. Yi Xian said. Hiss. Before his voice fell, Song Suijing actually stabbed him again. It was the same position, the same depth. Ouch, you damn girl. I told you to stab me, but you really did stab me. It hurts. Yi Xian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This girl had stabbed his kidney again. A man's kidney was an important organ comparable to the heart. What if it was damaged? Song Suijing stared in horror. Sure enough, after a few seconds the second bloody hole also healed. How amazing. What kind of technique did you practice? It's actually so powerful. In the future, if you break your arms or legs, will they grow back? Song Suijing asked with a face full of curiosity. If it's broken arms or legs, I don't know. Yi Xian said with a dark face. However, if there was time he could try. After all, Zhao Chongwen, who had his wrist bitten off by the blood wolf, had his hand reconnected. But now wasn't the time. Wait, your aura. Song Suijing finally reacted. After going through a huge battle, Yi Xian's aura hadn't weakened at all. Instead, it had become even stronger. Because of my body strengthening technique, after I swallowed the dark beast's inner core, I broke through to the mortal core realm. What do you think? Amazing, right? Yi Xian looked at Song Suijing with a faint smile on his face. You freak, do you really have to provoke me like this? Song Suijing pouted. She had just broken through to the half-step origin core realm, and Yi Xian had broken through to the divine core realm. This was a huge blow to her confidence. Don't worry, you'll break through soon as well. Come, let's go to the south and kill the other dark beast. Yi Xian said with a smile on his face. Didn't you say we're going to the Great Tang Dynasty's treasure vault? Song Suijing was confused. Don't worry, the treasure vault won't run away. Let's kill the other dark beast first in case someone else gets there first. Yi Xian casually replied. After that, he said something to the soaring cloud rock, then he started flying towards the south. With his current strength, there was no man or beast in the Great Tang Dynasty that could threaten him. He could even do whatever he wanted in the entire eastern region. However, it seemed like they weren't the only ones who came to the Great Tang Dynasty. Perhaps those half-step origin core disciples were here as well. If the dark beast was taken away, it would be troublesome. After all, there weren't many dark beasts in the eastern region. End of chapter. Chapter 217. The soaring sky rock flew for another 2 days, flying from the north to the south of the Great Tang Dynasty. Then it found another troublesome Shen beast. It was a giant tortoise called the giant lava tortoise. There were hundreds of holes on its back, each 2 to 3 meters in diameter. Every once in a while, the giant lava tortoise would spit out countless flaming meteors, which could easily destroy a city. Why is it another Shen beast with such strong defense? On the back of the soaring sky rock, Song Suijing was unhappy. Although she was at the half-step origin core realm, her cultivation level increased too quickly. Her experience could not keep up, and her battle strength was much weaker than ordinary half-step origin core realm experts. It was a difficult task for her to fight the giant lava tortoise alone. Don't worry, I will follow you. As Yi Xian spoke, he directly handed over the Earth-grade nebula sword. This nebula sword is for you. Go and kill this giant tortoise. You're giving me an Earth-grade nebula sword? Song Suijing was stunned. An Earth-grade nebula sword was not something she could afford, but Yi Xian actually gave her an Earth-grade nebula sword so casually. This was a little too generous. Why are you so good to me? Song Suijing suddenly blinked her big eyes and looked at Yi Xian lovingly. Yi Xian smiled faintly and reached out to stroke Song Suijing's hair. I like you. Can't I? This answer also stunned Song Suijing. After a while, she regained her senses. Her small face was already red, and she did not dare to look at Yi Xian. Alright, if you want to repay me with your body, wait until we kill this giant tortoise. After Yi Xian finished speaking, he directly put his hand on Song Suijing's waist. With his left hand, he scooped Song Suijing up and carried her horizontally. So light, probably less than 50 kilograms. I didn't expect you to be so thin, but your chest is so full. Yi Xian glanced at Song Suijing's shining white chest, then directly jumped forward, jumping down from 100 meters in the air. What are you doing? When Song Suijing reacted, she was already in a state of weightlessness. Her white and tender arms subconsciously wrapped around Yi Xian's neck, and tightly pressed her chest against Yi Xian's neck as she cried out involuntarily. Bang! After Song Suijing, he gently put Song Suijing down and then picked his ears. Great aunt, I'm going deaf. Who asked you to jump down without a greeting? Song Suijing panted heavily. She was scared to death. Even though she was a half-step origin core realm cultivator, she was still scared to death. Even if she was a half-step expert, she would still become a dead pig if she fell from 100 meters in the air. Most people would use martial arts to reduce the impact, but Yi Xian directly jumped down with her in his arms. She almost thought that she and Yi Xian would become a pair of lovebirds. No matter what, you are still a half-step origin core expert. How can you be so cowardly? Alright, let me see your strength. As long as you kill it, I will give you another surprise. Yi Xian turned his head and looked at the lava tortoise a few hundred meters away. Watch me. Hearing the word, surprise, Song Suijing's eyes lit up. She then took out the nebula sword and rushed toward the lava tortoise. As for Yi Xian, he quietly followed behind her. Although the lava tortoise's power was shocking, it was much easier to deal with compared to the two-headed poison tortoise. However, the lava tortoise's defense was much stronger than the two-headed poison tortoise's. Song Suijing was also not confident. When she got close to the lava tortoise, she slashed at it with her sword qi. Pa! This sword qi slashed at the lava tortoise's hind legs and was easily dispersed. There was no damage at all. Girl, do your best. Yi Xian cheered her on. He was also very helpless. Song Suijing had an earth-grade weapon, but she was still unable to break through the lava tortoise's defense. She was too weak. I don't know any earth-grade martial arts. Song Suijing said unhappily as she attacked. She slashed more than 10 times and could only barely break through the lava tortoise's skin. Alright, I will give you this surprise first. After saying that, a transparent seed suddenly appeared in Yi Xian's hand. After that, he threw it to Song Suijing. Song Suijing caught the translucent seed, then she asked curiously, what is this? You'll know after you eat it. Yi Xian said with an indifferent smile on his face. This seed was actually a bloodline seed. That's right, a bloodline seed. And it was a high-ranked Sword Emperor bloodline. This was a function unlocked by the system after he broke through to the Divine Core realm. It allowed him to turn a bloodline seed into a bloodline seed. In simple words, other people could fuse with a bloodline seed, but each person could only eat one seed. To be exact, it was a type of seed. In order to make a bloodline seed, one had to pay 100 times the price of the corresponding bloodline. This Sword Emperor bloodline seed also squandered all of Yi Xian's devour points. This time he had put in a lot of effort just to win a smile from this beauty. Song Suijing felt a little strange, but she trusted Yi Xian very much. Therefore, she swallowed the Sword Emperor bloodline seed without hesitation. In the next moment, two bright beams shot out from her eyes. Her aura instantly skyrocketed and she became extremely fierce. Sword Emperor bloodline fused successfully. Yixian, this is... Song Suijing opened her eyes wide and said in shock. This is a bloodline seed I obtained by chance. It is the Sword Emperor bloodline. From now on, your understanding of sword-type martial arts will increase, and the power of your sword-type martial arts will increase as well. Yixian said. Then he suddenly thought of something and asked, just now, did you obtain the Sword Emperor's inheritance? How many Earth-rank martial arts did he teach you? And one of them is a mid-rank Earth-rank martial art. Song Suijing was completely stunned. She had heard that some mighty men would condense all their life's knowledge into a bloodline seed, and pass it on to others to be passed down. But she never thought she would encounter one herself. Moreover, it was given to her by Yixian. What she did not understand was why Yixian would give her such a precious thing. Alright, don't just stand there like a fool. Let's kill this giant tortoise. Yixian's words woke Song Suijing up. She instantly came back to her senses. She had to kill this giant tortoise first. Heaven Splitter Sword. Song Suijing's eyes turned cold. After a while, she directly slashed at the giant tortoise's thick hind legs. This move was the mid-rank Earth-rank martial art in the Sword Emperor bloodline. It was extremely powerful. Whoosh whoosh. This slash was extremely fast. Ordinary people would not be able to react in time. It directly swept past the giant tortoise's hind legs and easily cut it into two. What? Song Suijing opened her mouth wide. In order to use this mid-rank Earth-rank martial art, she had already used up all her Jindan essence and replenished a lot of her celestial chi. However, the power of this move was already beyond her imagination. Plop. The giant tortoise had been moving before. Now that its hind legs were cut off, it suddenly lost its balance and sat down. End of chapter. Chapter 218. However, in the next moment, Yixian's expression changed as well. Oh no, it's going to erupt. Quickly hide below, Yixian hurriedly shouted. Song Suijing looked at the giant lava tortoise's trembling tortoise shell that emitted loud rumbling sounds. He instantly reacted and hid under the tortoise shell with Yixian. Splash. The lava tortoise's hind limb, which was at least 10 meters in diameter, was bleeding profusely. At this moment, the lava tortoise suddenly shuddered. Rumble. Rumble. Although they couldn't see it, Yixian and Song Suijing could hear it. Above their heads, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The sound was so loud that it sounded like the sky was about to collapse. A few seconds later, they saw a few burning boulders smashing into the ground in the distance. Flaming boulders fell one after another, and the ground began to tremble violently. Fortunately, this lava tortoise was still in the wild. If it was near the city, it would have caused a huge disaster. Rumble. The flaming boulders continued to rain down. After the lava tortoise spewed hundreds of flaming boulders, it shuddered again and let out a comfortable roar. At this moment, this area was already riddled with holes. There were flaming boulders everywhere, and the temperature had risen by at least 10 degrees. Oh no, hurry up and get out. This lava tortoise is going to retreat into its shell. Yixian's expression changed again. One had to know that Song Suijing had chopped off the tortoise's hind legs earlier. Tortoises were more timid. Even if this lava tortoise was a celestial beast, it would still retreat into its shell in the face of danger. At this moment, Yixian hurriedly pulled Song Suijing away. As expected, the moment they left the bottom of the shell, the lava tortoise's head and limbs retracted, and its shell came into close contact with the ground. If Yixian and Song Suijing had been a little slower, they would have been crushed to death. Song Suijing glanced at the lava tortoise, then turned to look at Yixian. Yixian, what do we do now? I've used up all the Jindan essence in my body. I don't even have half of my celestial chi left. Middle-grade Earth-level martial arts is for you. It's said that it's too draining and that you can only use it once. So I'll have to do it. As Yixian said, he pulled Song Suijing to the lava tortoise. Give me the nebula sword. Yixian extended his hand. Song Suijing quickly handed the sword over. Following that, Yixian revealed an extremely confident smile and said, Next I'll let you, this girl, see my true strength. As he spoke, the elixir essence in his body started to circulate rapidly and condensed on the nebula sword. Sky-breaking slash. Yixian shouted out loudly. He slashed down with the sword in his hand. A dozen-meter-long sword beam cut through the ground and headed straight for the lava tortoise. In the next moment, Song Suijing was completely shocked. The sword beam flashed and cut through the lava tortoise's body, splitting it in half. The lava tortoise's body was cut in half along with its shell. Blood immediately gushed out like a flood. Killing a lava tortoise with an extremely strong defense with a single strike, even an initial mortal core warrior couldn't do it. Xian had just broken through to the mortal core realm, and this was his true strength. Terrifying. He has just broken through to the mortal core realm, but he already has the power to destroy the heavens and earth. If he is at the fourth realm of the spirit realm, does that mean he can destroy a mountain with a single punch? Xian thought to himself. He was just pretending just now. He estimated that he could kill the lava tortoise, but he wouldn't be able to cut it in half. However, he never expected his strength to be so strong. An earth weapon, a mid-rank earth martial skill, a sword emperor bloodline, and a divine core warrior. All of these factors had given him the ability to kill the lava tortoise. Humph, you abnormal freak, only you can kill a Xian beast with a single strike. Song Suijing was stunned for a moment before she finally regained her senses. She was no longer surprised by this. Hee hee. Xian let out an indifferent laugh. He quickly walked over and devoured the lava tortoise. After that, he handed the Xian beast's core to Song Suijing. You killed this lava tortoise, are you really going to give me the Xian beast's core? Song Suijing blinked her big eyes and asked. I've already given you the Sword Emperor's bloodline seed, what's a Xian beast's core? Xian was puzzled. A Sword Emperor's bloodline seed was much more valuable than a Xian beast's core. If he were to sell it, the Sword Emperor's bloodline seed would definitely be a hit. Many people would fight over it, and the price would be at least 10 million mid-rank crystal stones. However, this bloodline seed was the same as a top-tier bloodline seed, it was unique. In other words, he couldn't exchange for the Sword Emperor's bloodline seed anymore, he could only exchange for it once. Song Suijing took the Xian beast's core. After a short pause, she asked shyly, do you really like me? What? You don't believe me? Xian asked with a surprised expression. What if you're a womanizer? Song Suijing asked again. If I'm a womanizer, then just accept your fate. Also, if you don't agree, then spit out the bloodline seed and give it back to me. Oh, and the 6 yuan pill. Xian stretched out his hand. You bastard. Song Suijing cursed angrily. However, she knew Xian was just joking. In fact, she wasn't ready yet. Therefore, after hesitating for a moment, she said, if you can help me break through to the divine core realm in 2 days, then I'll agree. Agree. She suddenly didn't know what to say. If I can help you break through to the divine core realm in 2 days, then you'll agree to be my wife? Xian's eyes lit up. What do you mean by be your wife? That sounds so bad. If you can do it, then I'll think about it. Song Suijing pouted. What? Think about it? Xian said, how about this, I'll help you break through to the divine core realm in 1 day, then you'll marry me. What do you think? You're pushing your luck again? Song Suijing subconsciously blurted out. However, she felt it was impossible. Normally, a half-step origin core warrior would be able to absorb a Xian beast's core after cultivating it to the maximum. But it would take a long time, at least a few months. The reason why Xian could break through to the divine core realm in 1 day was because of his physique. Therefore, Song Suijing didn't think it was possible. Alright, if you can help me break through to the divine core realm in 1 day, then I'll marry you, you bastard. Song Suijing agreed without hesitation, because she felt it was impossible. Deal? Xian was overjoyed. He immediately summoned the soaring sky rock, then he flew back to the Great Tang Dynasty's imperial capital. He estimated that by the time he returned to the Great Tang Dynasty's imperial capital, Song Suijing would be able to break through to the divine core realm. You don't tell me you really have a way? Riding on the soaring sky rock's back, Song Suijing looked at Xian's confident expression, and couldn't help but ask. End of chapter. Chapter 219. What can I do? Do you think I'll agree? With a smile on his face, Xian took out a pill from his devouring space. That elixir had cost him 5 billion devouring points. He had used up all his devouring points before this, but after breaking through to the divine core realm, he had devoured all the corpses and crystals in his devouring space. But now he was once again a poor man. What is this? Song Suijing asked curiously. Don't worry about it, just swallow it. Xian replied. Song Suijing felt a little uneasy. I'm not eating it. Great Aunt, are you going back on your word? Swallow it. Xian's expression changed. Without hesitation, he shoved the pill and dark beast inner core into Song Suijing's mouth. You want to go back on your word? No way. Ugh, you scoundrel. Before Song Suijing could react, the pill had been swallowed. After that, she could feel some changes happening in her body. Inner core. Inner core was continuously flowing out from her body, and was converging towards her dantian. This is forming a mortal core? Song Suijing was shocked. Silly girl, hurry up and absorb it, don't waste this divine pill. Yi Xian's voice entered her ears. But now she couldn't care less. Since she had already eaten the pill, she couldn't just waste it. This pill was bought by Yi Xian with 5 billion devouring points. It could increase the speed of absorbing a dark beast in her core by 100 times. Normally, it would take at least 3 months for someone to absorb a dark beast in her core, but Song Suijing's talent was pretty good, that's why it took her less than 3 months. With this pill and Yi Xian's help, Song Suijing only spent half a day to form a mortal core and break through to the divine core realm. Haha, you'll have to call me husband from now on. Somewhere in the skies of Great Tang Dynasty, a hearty laughter was echoing. The owner of this laughter was Yi Xian. How is this possible? It's only been half a day. Song Suijing was so shocked that she couldn't speak. She didn't expect a miracle to happen again. In just half a day's time she had broken through from the half-step origin core realm to the mortal core realm. No one would believe this. You tricked me again. Song Suijing glared at Yi Xian. What do you mean by tricking you? You were the one who agreed. Yi Xian rolled his eyes. Damn it. Song Suijing was so angry that she gritted her teeth. She wanted to bite Yi Xian to death. Now you are my fiancé. Not bad to be able to marry a princess of a dynasty as my wife. I have profited. Yi Xian stood up and sized up Song Suijing with a strange look. The latter's figure was indeed good, even better than Hua Ying of the Profound Sun Empire's general's mansion. She had breasts and buttocks, her skin was white and her legs were long. If he had to give a score to Song Suijing, Yi Xian would definitely give her 100 points. You bad guy, don't look at me like that. Song Suijing's face turned red from being stared at by Yi Xian. What's wrong? Can't I look at my fiancé? Yi Xian walked behind Song Suijing, then he suddenly sat down and hugged her from behind, causing her to tremble in fear. Don't move, just let me hug you. Yi Xian whispered into Song Suijing's ears. Song Suijing couldn't resist Yi Xian, and now that her ears were being blown by Yi Xian, her bones went soft, and she collapsed into Yi Xian's arms. You can't let me down? Song Suijing hesitated for a moment, then she finally said it. Although her voice was soft, Yi Xian heard it clearly. Yi Xian responded softly, then suddenly pressed Song Suijing under his body and planted a kiss on her cherry lips. By the time Song Suijing reacted, it was already too late. Yi Xian had already succeeded. Her first thought was to push Yi Xian away, but that was just a thought. Then she closed her eyes and took the initiative to wrap her arms around Yi Xian's neck. This was her first time, and after enjoying it she was immediately addicted to it. Yi Xian caressed her face as he sucked on her rosy lips. Then, his hands started to wander down her body again. Song Suijing didn't have time to react before Yi Xian undid her belt. Being on the back of a flying spirit beast wasn't something an ordinary person could experience. Song Suijing was scared half to death. Just as she was about to push Yi Xian's hand away, a deafening roar suddenly rang out in the calm sky. Roar? This roar frightened Yi Xian. He quickly turned his head to look, but he didn't see anything. Song Suijing asked with a flushed face, "What's that sound?" "It should be some kind of spirit beast." "Damn it, how dare you disturb my good time." "Continue," Yi Xian said, then kissed her again. But it didn't take long for the roar to ring out again. This time the blood in his body started to boil. "No, this is a mystical beast." Yi Xian licked his lips and said with a frown. Song Suijing was also surprised. She asked, "Didn't the Tang dynasty only have 2 mystical beasts?" "Yes, maybe the remnants of the beast god sect forcefully raised another one." Yi Xian nodded. But in the next moment he realized a problem. The sound came from in front of them. And in front of them was the Tang dynasty's imperial capital. Could it be the one under the Tang dynasty's imperial palace? Yi Xian said in shock. The imperial palace? After Song Suijing heard this, she suddenly remembered that Yi Xian said he heard a beast's roar coming from under the imperial palace. This beast god sect doesn't feel normal. Fly faster. Yi Xian felt a little uneasy. The soaring rock also understood. It immediately let out a shriek and started to fly at full speed. As for Yi Xian, he wasn't in the mood to tease Song Suijing. He had a feeling that the Tang dynasty was going to face a great disaster this time, a disaster that was even greater than the countless beast hordes. With the soaring rock's full speed, Yi Xian finally arrived at the Tang dynasty's imperial capital when night fell. But, just as they were about to enter the imperial capital, the soaring rock suddenly landed. "What's going on? I didn't ask you to land." Yi Xian asked with a surprised expression. The soaring rock opened its mouth and let out a shriek. After breaking through to the divine core realm, Yi Xian's mid-rank 100 beasts bloodline had leveled up to myriad beasts. Now he had a very strong sense for demon beasts and spirit beasts, and he could roughly understand their language. You're saying you're scared? There's a creature in the imperial capital that is much stronger than you? Yi Xian asked. The soaring rock nodded its head. Alright, I can feel it too. You can go to that mountain and wait there, we'll go there ourselves. Yi Xian didn't insist. After that, he brought Song Suijing and rushed towards the Tang dynasty's imperial capital. End of chapter. Chapter 220. However, halfway there, Song Suijing suddenly pointed at the imperial capital and said, Look. In fact, Yi Xian had already seen it. At this time, there was already a lot of black smoke rising in the imperial capital. Something must have happened in the imperial capital. Come, let's go in and take a look. Yi Xian held Song Suijing's slender hand and rushed over. They ran outside the city gates and could hear the cries from inside. At the same time, there were many people escaping from the city. Big brother, what happened in the imperial capital? Yi Xian stopped a middle-aged man and asked. The middle-aged man was also a warrior. He could see that Yi Xian was not an ordinary person and immediately explained, Little brother, don't go in. For some reason, a wyvern appeared in the imperial capital and is wreaking havoc inside. It destroyed the entire palace. What, a wyvern? Song Suijing immediately exclaimed. Yes, it's a wyvern. Its wings are injured and it can't fly, so it's wreaking havoc in the imperial capital. It can casually spit out flames, and even if there's nothing, it can burn until tomorrow. Now the entire palace is a sea of fire. It's said that all the experts in the imperial family are dead. Even the emperor came out, but he was directly burned to ashes by the wyvern's flames. The middle-aged man described it as if he had seen it with his own eyes. Thank you, big brother. After Yi Xian heard this, he gave him some mid-grade crystals and told him to leave quickly. When the middle-aged man saw the mid-grade crystals, his eyes almost popped out. He was just an ordinary warrior, not even in the true spirit realm. Moreover, it was an entire bag of mid-grade crystals. He was so happy that he quickly thanked Yi Xian again and again, almost worshipping him as if he was his ancestor. However, by the time he reacted, Yi Xian and Song Suijing had already disappeared. At this time, on the tall tower of the imperial capital's city wall. Suijing, is this wyvern also a type of celestial beast? Yi Xian stood on the tall tower and looked around. Yes, but also no. I've only read about it in books. This wyvern had boundless strength. Like the double-headed venomous scale, it could breathe fire. Furthermore, the fire was extremely difficult to extinguish. It is said that a young wyvern is as strong as an earth core warrior. Before Song Suijing could finish, Yi Xian exclaimed, What? Even a young wyvern is comparable to an earth core warrior? Yes. Previously, my grandfather said that the first of the spirit stage's 4 stages, the gravity spirit stage, uses the wyvern's strength as a unit of measurement. Therefore, an adult flying dragon is comparable to a powerhouse in the strength realm. Song Suijing nodded. This. Yi Xian was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Even if it was a young wyvern, he might not be able to deal with it. After all, the Earth Core stage was divided into initial stage, and advanced stage. If it was an adult wyvern, there was no way he could defeat it. It was a combat strength that surpassed the divine core realm. Look over there. While Yi Xian was still in a daze, Song Suijing's slender finger suddenly pointed in a direction. Yi Xian turned around and saw a flame soaring into the sky. A wyvern. Yi Xian focused his gaze, and indeed he saw a red wyvern. A wyvern that could breathe fire when it opened its mouth. This wyvern had a huge body. Although it was smaller than the giant lava tortoise, it was still bigger than the soaring sky rock. The combination of the myriad beasts bloodline and the overlord arrow bloodline gave Yi Xian extraordinary vision. He could clearly see the wyvern from a few thousand meters away. Right at this moment. Suddenly, a figure entered Yi Xian's vision. Who is this? How dare he provoke a wyvern? Yi Xian's heart trembled. When he saw the man's face, he was scared to death. Tang Sun? Oh my god, Tang Sun was burned to ashes. Yi Xian shivered. He wasn't surprised that Tang Sun was in the Great Tang Dynasty. The man who came out just now was the Great Tang Dynasty's old great emperor, Tang Sun. However, he was burned to ashes by the wyvern's dragon breath. Yi Xian, what should we do? Song Suijing furrowed her brows. Although this was the Great Tang Dynasty and not the Great Song Dynasty, there were still countless innocent people in the imperial capital. The Great Tang Dynasty's imperial family must be related to the Beast God sect. Perhaps the beast god sect was trying to control this wyvern, but they failed. We need to leave now, it won't be good if we get targeted by this wyvern. After saying that, Yi Xian prepared to leave with Song Suijing. A Xian beast at this level had a very strong sense, they could sense the presence of powerful warriors. Yi Xian and Song Suijing had both broken through to the divine core realm, and if they were discovered they would be in big trouble. But right at this moment, the wyvern who was spitting out dragon breath suddenly turned around and looked at Yi Xian. Not good, let's go. Yi Xian's heart skipped a beat. Just now he had exchanged glances with the wyvern, it must have discovered him. Without hesitation he carried Song Suijing in his arms. They jumped out of the city directly from the high tower of the city wall. Rumble. Loud rumbling sounds kept coming from the imperial capital. Yi Xian quickly carried Song Suijing and left the city. In the blink of an eye he was already a few hundred meters away. However, when he turned around and took a look, he was shocked to see that the wyvern had smashed a huge hole in the city wall, and was chasing after Yi Xian. Fuck you. Yi Xian cursed in his mind. He quickly calculated the wyvern's speed and found out that it was actually faster than him. Furthermore, it wasn't just a little bit faster. It was an adult wyvern. We're dead. Yi Xian's face darkened. He didn't expect to get into such a huge crisis just because he wanted to be a bystander in the imperial capital. If this continued, he and Song Suijing would definitely die here. At that moment he put down Song Suijing and shouted, "Split up." Song Suijing also felt the immense pressure of facing an adult wyvern. However, by the time she reacted, Yi Xian had already left her side. Although Yi Xian was running in another direction, he was closing the distance between him and the wyvern. He was obviously courting death. Song Suijing instantly understood that Yi Xian was trying to buy some time for her to escape. That bastard, why is he so stupid? She immediately burst into tears and chased after him without thinking. While running, Yi Xian heard the sound of footsteps. When he turned around he almost fainted. Song Suijing was actually chasing after him. Were they trying to be a pair of doomed lovers? Damn it, I haven't married anyone yet, how can I die? Yi Xian thought for a moment, then he suddenly let out a few long roars towards the sky. This time he was going to risk his life. Right now he had the high-ranked Thunderclap Panther bloodline in his body. He could run as fast as lightning, but he still couldn't escape from the pursuit of a strength wyvern. Therefore he had no choice but to use his trump card. He would devour everything in the devouring system, then exchange them for a top-ranked bloodline. He had just finished fusing with a high-ranked bloodline. If he forcefully fused with a top-ranked bloodline, his strength would drop and he would explode and die. But did he have any other choice? With Yi Xian's strength at the mortal core realm, if he forcefully fused with a top-ranked bloodline, he would most likely die. But if he didn't, he would definitely die. But in order to escape he had to fuse with a top-ranked bloodline. End of chapter. Chapter 221. Let's go all out. Yi Xian gritted his teeth and prepared to stake everything on this one attack. The wyvern was only 100 meters away from him. Its sharp claws could probably tear his body into pieces in an instant. However, he only needed to think about it to fuse with the top-notch bloodline. However, at this critical moment, a voice suddenly rang out. "Don't you dare hurt me, evil creature." A sudden roar fell into Yi Xian's ears, causing his brain to suddenly stop working. He focused his eyes and was shocked to find that the wyvern that was chasing him was missing a wing. He clearly saw that the wyvern had 2 wings earlier, but now why was it only left with 1 wing? Roar, the wyvern roared. One of its wings was already injured, but now that injured wing was directly cut off. It turned its huge head and saw a white-robed man standing in the air not far away. Yi Xian also looked over and was immediately shocked. What was going on? Someone was actually standing in the air. Was this a Photoshop? Roar, the wyvern roared again and charged toward the man in white. As a proud member of the dragon clan, it was actually injured by a human. That was simply humiliating. Humph, a mere wyvern dares to roar at me? The man stood in the air and did not dodge. He just watched as the wyvern's claws clawed at him. Yi Xian watched with wide eyes, not wanting to miss a single scene. The next moment he was shocked again. He saw the wyvern being sent flying by that man with a single punch. Heavens, he sent a wyvern flying with a single punch. Is he really human? Yi Xian's eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. Even if the wyvern had been suppressed for countless years and its strength was not at its peak, this was still very impressive. At this moment, Song Suijing also hurried over and stood beside him to watch. Die, evil creature, withering sword. The middle-aged man's voice rang out in the air. Then he casually slashed out a slash. This slash was purplish-black in color. It seemed very slow, but it also seemed very fast. The flying dragon did not dodge and was directly struck. After that, the bright red body of the wyvern began to turn black. Then its entire body withered like petals. After a few seconds, it turned into ashes and was blown away by the wind. What kind of martial arts is this? Yixian was stunned. Who exactly was this middle-aged man in white? Not only could he stand in the air, but he could also kill the flying dragon with a single sword strike. Furthermore, he did it in an unconventional way. The night wind was very strong, and the ashes of the flying dragon were quickly blown away. At this moment, the middle-aged man in white turned his head and looked at Yixian. Then he took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of Yixian. He was still standing in the air about 5 meters above the ground. "Buddy, I just saved your life, shouldn't you thank me?" The middle-aged man in white said with a smile on his face. Hearing this, Yixian quickly cupped his fist and said, "Thank you, senior, for saving my life." "Ah, just a verbal thank you?" The middle-aged man in white laughed again. Yixian was startled, then he furrowed his brows and said, "Senior, you're a mighty man and I'm just a new divine core warrior. I'm afraid I can't repay senior's kindness." What kind of joke was this? This man had just killed a flying dragon with a single sword strike. Why would he want anything from him? "No, you can," the middle-aged man in white said. Yixian raised his head, and he saw the middle-aged man looking at Song Suijing. In an instant, Yixian understood what the middle-aged man wanted. "Senior, you can have anything you want, but not her," Yixian said with gratitude. He was puzzled as well. A mighty man like this could have any woman he wanted. Why would he want Song Suijing? The middle-aged man in white just stared at them for a brief moment. No one knew what he was thinking. After a brief moment, he smiled and said, "You said you can have anything you want? Including your life?" "Life?" Yixian was startled once again and he hesitated for a brief moment. He never expected that after escaping from the flying dragon, he would run into another mighty man who was trying to cheat him. "Fine, if senior wants my life, just take it." Yixian gritted his teeth and nodded his head. Song Suijing, who was standing next to him, had tears streaming down her face. Yixian was willing to sacrifice himself to protect her. This proved that she had a very high position in Yixian's heart. Right now, she was prepared to sacrifice herself. However, just as she was about to speak, the middle-aged man in white smiled and said, "Not bad, not bad. For a woman, you are willing to sacrifice yourself. If you have someone you want to protect, then you won't go down the wrong path in your future cultivation." "I was just joking just now. I just felt that you were a little like a friend of mine, so I helped you. Otherwise, even if this dynasty was destroyed, it would have been impossible. Otherwise, it would have nothing to do with me." Hearing this, the large rock in Yixian's heart fell with a loud bang. So it was just a passing expert who saw someone who looked like a friend. "Thank you, senior." Yixian and Song Suijing thanked him in unison. "Don't thank me. I said that I wouldn't help for nothing. Kid, you now owe me a favor. If we meet again in the future, I hope that you will remember this favor." The middle-aged man in white said with a smile. "This kid will definitely remember." Yixian hurriedly replied. As long as he had some time, he would be able to reach the spirit realm 4 realms. "Ah, I was just joking. The world is so big, how could it be so easy to meet?" The middle-aged man in white laughed a few times. Yixian felt that something was wrong. When he raised his head, he realized that the middle-aged man in white had already disappeared. The laughter came from all directions and he didn't know where he went. Damn, he was like a ghost. That scared me to death. Yixian exclaimed in his heart. Just now, he was really afraid that the middle-aged man would suddenly attack and turn him into a flying dragon. Fortunately, it was just a joke. Yixian. Song Suijing's gentle and delicate voice fell into Yixian's ears. When he turned his head, he realized that the former's face was already covered in tears. "Why are you so silly?" Song Suijing hugged Yixian and cried until she was half dead. Her towering breasts were pressed against Yixian's body, which immediately made Yixian's mood turn for the better. After surviving a great disaster, one was bound to have good fortune later on. This was good fortune later on. Yixian held Song Suijing's waist with one hand and gently stroked her head. He comforted her. "Don't cry. Aren't men supposed to stand up at times like this? Besides, aren't we all fine now? It was just a false alarm. Don't be like this next time. If we're going to die, we'll die together." Song Suijing raised her head. Her tears flowed down like beads from a broken necklace. Her face was full of tears and Yixian's heart melted. Okay. Let's do it together." Yixian smiled. "We'll talk about this later. Shouldn't you reward me now?" After he finished speaking, he turned his face to the side. Song Suijing immediately understood Yi Xian's meaning. She stood on tiptoe and kissed Yi Xian on the cheek. Good girl? Yi Xian enjoyed it very much. He lovingly stroked Song Suijing's hair. When had he ever thought that there would be a goddess-like beauty hugging him? In his previous life, he didn't even dare to think about it. End of chapter. Chapter 222. That's right. At this time, Song Suijing suddenly raised her head and looked at Yi Xian with teary eyes. She said softly, "That senior seems to know you." "Yes, I can see that." Yi Xian nodded and said, "The yuan qi of heaven and earth in the four great domains is lacking compared to the central region. With such a weak yuan qi, there wouldn't be any treasures that could catch the eye of an expert. Therefore that senior definitely isn't traveling. He's here specifically for me. The friend that senior is talking about might be related to your father." Song Suijing added. "Most likely. However, what kind of expert is he to be able to fly in the sky?" Yi Xian asked in surprise. Song Suijing also shook her head. "I don't know much. I can only go back and ask my master." Her master was the Grand Elder of the Soaring Heaven Mansion, an Earth Core expert. He was much stronger than her grandfather Song Cheng. Perhaps he knew something. This beast god sect is courting death. They actually tried to control a flying dragon. They deserve to be destroyed. Yi Xian shook his head helplessly. He turned his head and looked at the imperial capital. It was a sea of fire. The Great Tang Empire's treasury was probably burned to the ground. After all, the flying dragon came out from under the imperial palace. Then what should we do now? Song Suijing blinked her big eyes and looked at Yi Xian. At this time, she had already accepted Yi Xian and treated Yi Xian as her life's hope. Let's go to the Great Tang Empire's imperial palace to see if there's anything good there. After that, we'll go to the Great Song Empire. Yi Xian said casually. Although the flying dragon came out from the imperial palace, there might be some unexpected gains. Yes. Song Suijing nodded slightly. Her face blushed shyly. Yi Xian was going to the Great Song Empire. Didn't that mean he was going to see her family? After that, Yi Xian rode the soaring heaven rock to the imperial palace and circled around it. The palace was truly a sea of fire. Even in the air, one could feel the terrifying heat. The wyvern's flames were very terrifying. Even if there was nothing to burn, it could still last for a few days. If there was something, it could spread even faster. Therefore, the palace would soon be burned to ashes and become a wasteland. Yi Xian did not dare to touch those flames, so he decided to just forget about it and head straight to the Song dynasty. The Great Tang dynasty and the Great Song dynasty did not have a good relationship because they were neighbors. However, with the speed of the soaring sky rock, Yi Xian flew for a week before arriving. The imperial capital of the Great Song dynasty. Along the way, Song Suijing also observed carefully. There were also remnants of the beast god religion in the Great Song dynasty, and there were many beast tides. However, when the news reached the High Heaven Mansion, Song Cheng immediately took Judge Song and a group of experts to the Great Song dynasty. Hence, the Great Song dynasty had already survived the calamity and was in the midst of rebuilding. At this moment, outside the imperial city of the Great Song dynasty, Soaring Sky Rock, it's the envoy of the High Heaven Mansion. Yi Xian's Soaring Sky Rock lowered a bit, and Song Suijing deliberately showed her head. It's the princess. When the guards below saw Song Suijing, they immediately let her pass. Even if someone else wanted to fly directly into the imperial city, they would not dare to attack. The prince consort of the Great Song dynasty has returned, ha! Yi Xian shouted a few times towards the ground. However, before he finished speaking, Yi Xian felt a pain in his waist, followed by Song Suijing's coquettish voice. "You bad guy, don't talk nonsense." The two rode the soaring sky rock and directly landed in front of a magnificent palace. "Father, I'm back." Song Suijing jumped off the soaring sky rock and directly ran in. The group at the entrance did not even have time to react. Yi Xian followed closely behind her. He was a bit envious. With his current strength, he could definitely establish a dynasty and have 3,000 beauties and millions of people. It was a pity that this was not the life he wanted. His current dream was to be a top expert, not the emperor of a country. Yi Xian followed in. After Song Suijing's introduction, this palace was the place where the Song family's internal discussions were held. Ordinary people were not allowed to enter. Soon they saw the upper echelons of the Great Song dynasty sitting in the palace. "Girl, you're back, hmm? Yi Xian, you're also here." Chapter 223. Family? Song Cheng was startled for a moment. He didn't understand. Song Suijing's expression immediately changed, and she angrily glared at Yi Xian. They had agreed to keep it a secret for now, but Yi Xian had let it slip. In an instant, 2 red spots appeared on her face. Then she secretly whispered something into Song Cheng's ear. After hearing what Jiang Qin said, Song Cheng's eyes lit up. He laughed out loud and said, "Ha, we're family, we're family. Our great Song dynasty now has 2 more divine core warriors, this is great. In just a short period of time, we'll have 4 divine core warriors." The fact that these people were able to sit here today meant that they weren't idiots. After hearing what Song Cheng said, they immediately understood. So that's how it is. Not bad, young man. You have a handsome appearance and you definitely deserve to be a judge. Song Zheng stroked his black goatee with a smile on his face. Song Suijing was shy, but she couldn't stand this. She quickly changed the topic. "Grandfather, let's not talk about this for now. Is Big Brother also absorbing a dark beast's inner core?" "Yes, after I killed that dark beast, I gave its inner core to a judge. In another 1 or 2 months, it should be enough for him to break through to the mortal core realm." Song Qing nodded his head in satisfaction. The Great Song Dynasty had 3 new divine core warriors. This was great news, and it was 3 consecutive good news. After that, Song Suijing started talking about what had happened in the past few days. When she talked about what had happened in the Great Tang Dynasty's imperial capital, everyone was shocked. A wyvern. There was a wyvern imprisoned under the Great Tang Dynasty's imperial capital? I never expected this. I really never expected that there would be an injured wyvern in this tiny Great Tang Dynasty. This Great Tang Dynasty is really daring. They actually tried to control a wyvern. Song Qing shook his head and said, "Looks like the Beast God Religion's headquarters should be in the Great Tang Dynasty." "Girl, what happened to the wyvern?" Song Zheng suddenly asked. "It was killed by a senior who was passing by." "Oh right, grandfather, that senior was able to send the wyvern flying with just a single punch, and he could even fly in the sky. What cultivation realm is he at?" Song Suijing asked curiously. Hearing this, Song Qing immediately stood up and cried out in surprise, "What? Flying?" "Yes, this senior can stand in the air." Song Suijing nodded. "That's a spirit realm expert. Once a spirit realm expert's physique reaches a certain level, they will be able to break through to the spirit realm. After breaking through, they will be able to control their chi and fly. Sending a wyvern flying with a single punch would be a piece of cake for them. He would probably be able to kill a wyvern with just a finger." Song Qing said in disbelief. He was only at the initial mortal core realm. There was still some distance between him and the earth core realm, let alone the heavenly core realm and the spirit realm. However, what puzzled him was that such an expert would actually pass by the Great Tang Dynasty. It was truly unexpected. Hearing this, everyone present revealed looks of yearning. Humans could actually fly in the sky. What a wonderful thing this was. There are 4 stages of the spirit realm. Strength realm and spirit realm. There are still 2 more stages after that. I wonder what stage Unlucky Brat's father and that mysterious expert are at. Yi Xian thought to himself. "Grandpa, can you tell us more about the 4 stages of the spirit realm?" Song Suijing was interested as well, so she pestered Song Cheng and asked. All the people below were watching with great interest as well. Although they had no hope of breaking through to the divine core realm, it was still good to be able to listen. They would be able to tell the stories to their descendants and stimulate their desire to cultivate. "All right, but I don't know much about it." Song Qing nodded his head and said, "I heard that when a heavenly core warrior reaches the peak of his cultivation, he will be able to shatter his core and form his spirit. After breaking through, his physique will be greatly improved and he will have the strength of a wyvern. This is called the strength of one dragon. When an ordinary person cultivates to the limit, he will have the strength of 100 dragons. At that time he can try to break through to the spirit realm. However, I heard that there are some geniuses who can have the strength of more than 100 dragons. They can reach 200 or even 300 dragons. A single punch from these people is enough to split a mountain. When one breaks through to the spirit realm from the divine core realm, the core energy in one's body will transform into more powerful true energy. When one breaks through to the spirit realm from the spirit realm, he will be able to fly using the true energy in his body, and he will be able to fight in the air." "What's after the spirit realm?" Song Suijing asked with great interest. Song Qing continued, "After the spirit realm is the essence realm, and after that is the spirit realm. But I've only heard of these 2 realms." "Then Grandpa, do you know what realm that senior is at?" Song Suijing asked again. "I don't know, but he is at least at the spirit realm and he can kill a wyvern with a single punch. Furthermore, that sword strike, a martial skill that can turn a wyvern into ashes, is beyond my knowledge." Song Qing shook his head helplessly. After all, he was just the initial mortal core warrior. But he did tell Yi Xian and Song Suijing some things, and it stimulated their desire to cultivate. No, Yi Xian should be the desire to break through to the next realm. TSK being able to fly at the spirit realm, when the time comes I'll be able to fly with the scripture in my hand. When he thought about flying into the sky, Yi Xian couldn't help but go out and kill some monsters to level up. After that, the higher-ups of the Great Song dynasty continued their discussion. As for Yi Xian, he was brought by Song Suijing to her little palace. Since both of their relationship had been made public, there was no need to hide it any longer. Besides, Song Suijing's little palace had more than one room. Originally, Yi Xian wanted to bring a pill for his brother-in-law, but when he thought about how Adjudicator Song would be able to break through to the Divine Core realm in 2 months, he decided against it. After all, a single pill cost 5 billion Devour points. It was very expensive. You can stay here tonight, just call them if you need anything. Song Suijing brought Yi Xian to a room. You're not coming with me? Yi Xian looked at her with a faint smile on his face. You scoundrel, stop thinking nonsense, I haven't settled the score with you yet. Song Suijing pouted playfully. Back when they were on the soaring sky rock, Yi Xian had nearly eaten her alive. Luckily, she was saved by the cry of the flying dragon. Look, your family has accepted me, why don't you let me do it now? After saying that, Yi Xian suddenly put his arm around Song Suijing's slim waist. He had heard that this world was quite open, and even if they weren't married they could still do it. Scoundrel, hurry up and go in, I'll be leaving first. Song Suijing's face blushed, then she quickly ran away like a frightened little bird. Yi Xian felt extremely regretful. If he had known earlier he would have done it back on the soaring sky rock. But it didn't matter. Since they had confirmed their relationship, there was no way Song Suijing could run away. Since he was here he could return to the profound Sun Empire and bring back some good things for the Yi family. Tens of billions of Devour points, any single one of them could help the entire Yi family break through to the true spirit realm. End of chapter. Chapter 224. After staying in the Great Song dynasty for 3 days, Yi Xian also left on the soaring sky rock. This time, Song Suijing also went to the profound Sun Empire. At this time, the soaring sky rock had already entered the profound Sun Empire. Girl, don't be nervous. An ugly daughter-in-law will have to meet her parents-in-law sooner or later. Besides, my father isn't home. Yi Xian gently stroked the hair of the beauty beside him. Hearing this, Song Suijing immediately pouted and said, Who are you calling ugly? Ah, it's just a metaphor. Of course you're not ugly. Yi Xian knew that he said something wrong and hurriedly defended himself. In just a few minutes after they entered the profound Sun Empire, the soaring sky rock had already flown above Lianyun City. We're here. Yi Xian stood up and looked at the big city in front of him. He couldn't help but say, it hasn't even been a year and it has already developed into a big city. He remembered that he left Lianyun City after the new year. Then he went to the Shattering Cloud Sect, South Forest City, Imperial Capital, and finally Soaring Sky Mansion. Now that he thought about it, it was almost the new year. Song Suijing also stood up. When Yi Xian saw that nervous and shy expression, he couldn't help but kiss her. However, at this time Yi Xian suddenly thought of a problem and said, Oh right, I forgot to tell you something. I was previously engaged. What? You were engaged? You want me to be your concubine? Song Suijing suddenly exclaimed. She asked 2 questions in a row. Her eyes were already spewing out sparks. Don't be nervous. I forgot to tell you. The person I was engaged to was a playmate of mine when I was young. However, she didn't want to marry an ugly person at that time, so she used me as a shield. Yi Xian quickly explained. He felt that Song Suijing was about to draw her sword. Song Suijing coldly snorted. She was satisfied with this explanation. However, she didn't really care how many women Yi Xian had as long as he didn't let her down. After all, her father had more than a dozen concubines, and her brother had already married 3 crown princes. Of course, in addition to not letting her down, he also had another request, and that was to not let her be a concubine. Alright, let's go down. Yi Xian smiled and gently carried Song Suijing. The latter habitually wrapped her arms around Yi Xian's neck. With a light leap from Yi Xian they fell from the sky. 2 seconds later they landed on the ground. The place where they landed was coincidentally a courtyard of the Yi clan. In the courtyard there were 3 middle-aged men. These 3 middle-aged men were in the middle of discussing some matters when a loud sound suddenly rang out, scaring them half to death. They turned around and saw that one of the walls in the courtyard had collapsed. Smoke and dust filled the air. Then 2 figures walked out of it. Uncle, I'm back. Yi Xian walked out of the dust cloud and said with a smile. The three people in the courtyard were Yi Zhang, Shui Hai, and Lin Ming. Yi Xian? Yi Zhang thought that a thief had sneaked into the Yi clan. He didn't expect that Yi Xian was back. Then, the three of them simultaneously looked at the white-clothed girl behind Yi Xian. Hello, uncles. Song Suijing was a little nervous and called out softly. Yi Xian, this is... Yi Zhang looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian directly held Song Suijing's small hand and introduced her. She's the princess of the great Song dynasty. This action made Yi Zhang and the other two understand the relationship between the two. However, when they heard Yi Xian's words, they almost fainted from shock. The princess of the great Song dynasty? I'm mowing the grass. A dynasty was equivalent to hundreds, or even thousands of the profound Sun Empire. What about the Yi clan? It was just a small, insignificant clan in the profound Sun Empire. In the eyes of Yi Zhang and the other two, Yi Xian had grown to a level that they couldn't imagine. Come. Sit. Yi Zhang couldn't stop smiling and quickly pulled Yi Xian and Song Suijing to sit down. After all, they were family, so they quickly chatted. Yi Xian had left home for a year and Lianyun City had undergone huge changes. The profound Sun Empire also took care of the Yi clan and sent many people to help with the construction. Not only that, even Ouyang Ming came to Lianyun City to take charge. Lianyun City was developing very well and was very harmonious. Nothing big happened, which made Yi Xian feel very at ease. As for Lu, and Shui Qingqing, they were also living very well. They were only suited to this peaceful life, so they lived without worries. This time Yi Xian had brought quite a few good things with him. Remove other than the cultivation resources and earth-level martial arts, there were also the treasures exchanged from the devouring system. For example, the meditation jade pendant that increased cultivation speed, the guardian puppet that was comparable to the peak of the true profound realm, and so on. Although the profound Sun Empire was only a small empire, it was always good to be strong just in case. With these, the Yi clan, Shui clan, and Lin clan would definitely become one of the strongest clans in the eastern region. After leaving Yi Zhang, Yi Xian also returned to the small courtyard where he lived. Before he even entered the small courtyard, he could already hear the sound of laughter and chatter. It was obvious that two little girls were fooling around. Yi Xian directly pushed open the courtyard door and walked in with Song Suijing. When the two little girls saw Yi Xian, they also directly flew in front of him. Young master, you're finally back. Lu directly rushed into Yi Xian's arms, so excited that her eyes were red. Haha, I haven't seen you in a year. Lu has also grown a lot taller. Yi Xian lightly patted Lu's head. You bastard, you don't care about us now that you're the state general? You haven't come back in so long. Shui Qingqing angrily walked over and directly pointed at Yi Xian's nose. Can't help it, time was tight, so I directly left the profound Sun Empire. Now I'm back. Yi Xian smiled, then gently pulled Song Suijing, who was standing at the door, over and introduced him. Let me introduce you. This is my sister Lu. This, is also my sister Shui Qingqing. Before he finished speaking, Shui Qingqing unhappily said, Who's your little sister? I'm your fiancée. I knew you wouldn't know your place, bringing a beautiful big sister back every time. Yi Xian was stunned, then he suddenly remembered that he brought Guan Yulan back during the last New Year. He didn't know if Guan Yulan was doing well now. However, he didn't think too much about it. He would make a trip to the Shattering Cloud sect later to see if Guan Yulan had returned. You're just a fake. Also, Song Suijing is also my fiancée, we should get along well in the future. Yi Xian awkwardly smiled, he could already see Song Suijing's eyes that wanted to eat him. He also knew that Song Suijing wasn't arguing with Shui Qingqing, but with the other beautiful big sister that Shui Qingqing mentioned. I'll let it go this time, but if you bring her back next time, I'll bite you to death. Shui Qingqing angrily said, then directly moved to Song Suijing's side and intimately said, This big sister, let's go inside and talk, don't mind him. Yi Xian rolled his eyes, her face changed faster than the weather. End of chapter. Chapter 225. The three girls ran straight into the house. Yi Xian didn't follow them in. He estimated that the three girls would get along very well. After all, they were still young girls. Just as he had expected, in less than half an hour, they were already calling each other sisters and chatting harmoniously. After that, Yi Xian exchanged for 2 small items from the devouring system and walked into the house. Lu, Qingqing wear these 2 small jade pendants. They can save your lives in times of danger. Yi Xian handed over 2 small jade pendants. You brought back a gift. At least you have some conscience. Shui Qingqing took the jade pendant and found that the craftsmanship was quite exquisite. It looked pretty good on her neck. This was another type of puppet that Yi Xian exchanged for. If they were in danger, it would condense a profound chi puppet that was comparable to the peak of the true profound realm. It was much more precious than the several-meter-tall guardian puppet. Not only that, Yi Xian also specially chose an earth-level cultivation method that was suitable for girls. He even set up a large spirit-gathering formation in the Yi family to increase their cultivation speed. At the same time, he gave the 2 jade pendants to Lu and Qingqing. It wouldn't be long before the 2 girls became experts. Yi Xian didn't expect them to become super experts. He only wanted them to have life-saving skills. Moreover, cultivation could increase their lifespan. There were many benefits. A few days before the new year, Yi Xian rode the soaring sky rock to the shattering cloud sect. However, he found out that Guan Yulan hadn't returned yet. Helpless, he could only go to the Mystic Sun Imperial capital to report his safety to Zhao Chongguang because Zhao Pan and Jiangxian hadn't returned. In the end, he returned to Lianyun City and planted some precious spirit herbs in the Yi, Lin, and Shui families to increase the Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi and facilitate spirit gathering. Last year, Yi Xian brought Guan Yulan back. Unfortunately, Guan Yulan went out to train and hadn't returned yet. To be honest, Yi Xian missed Guan Yulan quite a bit. After all, Guan Yulan was about to confess to him. Thinking of this, Yi Xian became angry. He wanted to run to Zhou Tsang's grave, dig him out and then whip him. Only by whipping his corpse could he relieve the hatred in his heart. With the arrival of the new year, Yi Xian was 1 year older. He was already 17 years old. After the new year, he stayed in Lianyun City for a few more days before riding the Soaring Sky Rock back to the Soaring Sky Mansion. The Beast God Religion. The headquarters had already been destroyed, so there was nothing to be afraid of. However, this time they had to get rid of the roots of the problem. Otherwise they might rise again in the future. Song Cheng, Judge Song, and the others had also returned to the High Firmament Mansion earlier than Yi Xian. When Yi Xian returned to the Soaring Heaven Mansion, the Supreme Elder immediately came looking for him. Right now, he had learned that Song Suijing had broken through to the Divine Core Realm. He immediately laughed wildly and his teeth were about to fall off. A 17-year-old Divine Core Warrior and an 18-year-old Divine Core Warrior, this was the first time in the history of the Soaring Heaven Mansion. Since Yi Xian had broken through to the Divine Core Realm, it was time for him to start as well. Start what? Challenge the Earth list. Aside from Jianghu, there were 4 other Divine Core Warriors on the Earth list in the Underworld Palace. In other words, the 5th to 10th place were all half-step Origin Core Warriors. He didn't challenge any of the 4 Divine Core Warriors. After all, they were all from the Divine Continent Alliance. Therefore he only challenged the 10th ranked warrior. Although this senior disciple was also from the Divine Continent Alliance, he admitted defeat without hesitation. Just like that, Yi Xian and Song Suijing entered the heavenly abode. Right at this moment, Yi Xian and Song Suijing arrived at the heavenly abode and stayed in the same courtyard. Just as they set foot on the ground, someone came looking for them. Song Suijing turned around and when he saw that it was his master, he immediately greeted respectfully, "Master, why are you here?" The man was the Grand Elder of the Soaring Heaven Mansion, Zhou Yan. He walked in without any hesitation and with a smile on his face he said, "Haha, I've heard from Sect Elder Song that both of you have broken through to the Mortal Core Realm. Good, this is great." Upon hearing this, Song Suijing's face couldn't help but blush. Since Zhou Yan had heard about this, he must have known about her relationship with Yi Xian. After saying that, Zhou Yan threw his glance at Yi Xian. At the same time, a surprised look appeared on his face and he said, "You're just like your father, this is unbelievable. You've entered the heavenly abode, but that doesn't mean you can enter the top 5 of the heavenly abode. You still need to work harder. Senior, can you tell me the cultivation levels of those top 5 senior disciples?" Yi Xian cupped his fist and asked. "I know you've joined the Divine Continent Alliance. That's great, the 5th ranked warrior is a rogue cultivator, and he hasn't joined any power. Relatively speaking, he's the weakest. If you're looking for motivation, then make him your target. His name is Zhou Dongfeng, a mid-mortal core warrior with extraordinary strength. He uses 2 swords in one hand and he cultivates the Earth-rank skill, Gale 36 Swords." Zhou Yin casually explained. There were some super geniuses in the heavenly ranking, and they were all taught by someone. The number 1 ranked warrior of the Divine Continent Alliance, the Alliance Chief, had already broken through to the Earth Core Realm. As for the 2nd ranked Jianghu, the 3rd and 4th ranked warriors, they weren't ordinary warriors either. They had all broken through to the late mortal core realm. As for the 5th ranked Zhou Dongfeng, he was only at the mid-mortal core realm, and he was relatively easier to deal with. Mid-mortal core realm, huh? I understand. Yi Xian lightly nodded his head. If it was a mid-mortal core profound beast, it would be a piece of cake for him. But this was the Soaring Heaven Mansion, so he wasn't 100% confident. Although he wasn't 100% confident, he was at least 80% confident. He was prepared to challenge this Zhou Dongfeng later. Alright, here are the materials needed for 20 Earth rank weapons and 306 yuan pills. Once you're done, send them to me. Alright, you guys need to restrain yourselves, don't delay your cultivation. Zhou Yin threw a storage ring to Yi Xian, then he left. Yi Xian took the storage ring and gave it a quick check. The amount was correct. One Earth rank weapon was 200,000 mid-rank crystal stones. 20 of them would be 4 million mid-rank crystal stones. 306 yuan pills would be 3 million mid-rank crystal stones. If Yi Xian finished all of them, he would have earned 7 million mid-rank crystal stones. Song Suijing's face blushed. She asked in disbelief, "Why are there so many? Can you finish all of them?" "Ah, you're underestimating me." "What? Are you worried that I can't afford to feed you?" Yi Xian joked. Although Song Suijing didn't know the exact amount, she knew that it was an astronomical figure that even Song Qing didn't dare to imagine. "Then are you going out now?" Song Suijing pursed her lips. "Yes, but I'm not going out to refine them. Since you have nothing to do, let's go together." After Yi Xian finished speaking, he grabbed Song Suijing's hand and walked outside. Song Suijing blinked her big eyes and asked curiously, "Where are we going?" "The challenge arena." End of chapter. Chapter 226. Oh. Song Suijing didn't ask any more questions. Right now, both she and Yi Xian had broken through to the Divine Core Realm, and they could easily defeat those half-step Origin Core Realm warriors. They might even be able to defeat some ordinary Divine Core Realm warriors. After all, she had fused with the bloodline of a Sword Emperor, and she had directly learned the Earth rank martial arts. Furthermore, she had mastered it thoroughly, and her combat strength had increased tremendously. Along the way, Yi Xian had also forged a new Earth-level weapon. It was a long sword for ladies and it was called Frost. He had specially forged it for Song Suijing, and at the same time he had also exchanged it for the Nebula Sword. After a while, they arrived at the Heavenly Abode's challenge arena. There weren't many people in the Heavenly Abode. Excluding the 100 disciples on the Heaven ranking, there were only a dozen or so newcomers. Most of them were new disciples from the Central State. As Yi Xian walked, the streets were deserted. After entering the challenge arena, it was still the same. However, when he saw the guardian of the Soaring Cloud Mansion sitting cross-legged beside the challenge arena, his eyes lit up. "Senior brother." Yi Xian walked in and shouted. When the guardian heard him, he couldn't help but open his eyes. When he saw Yi Xian, he couldn't help but cry out in surprise. "Yi Xian?" This person was Mo Wen, the guardian of the Soaring Cloud Mansion, who had recommended Yi Xian to enter the underworld abode. "I didn't expect to meet senior brother here." Yi Xian quickly walked over. After that day, this was the first time he had seen Mo Wen. "Although this is the first time we've met since then, I've heard a lot about you in the past few days." Mo Wen wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said. Hearing this, Yi Xian let out a dry laugh. He had indeed been a little high profile recently. "Senior brother, why are you sweating so much?" At this moment, Song Suijing, who was behind Yi Xian, couldn't help but ask. Mo Wen naturally knew Song Suijing. He explained, "I can't break through to the Divine Core Realm, so I can only work hard on my physique. That's why I'm cultivating the body refining technique." A body refinement cultivation method was not something an ordinary person could cultivate. It required a strong will, because the body refinement cultivation method required constant tearing of the muscles and then repairing them. If an ordinary person were to cultivate it, they would probably faint from the pain. So that's how it is. Yi Xian nodded slightly. He tried to cultivate a body refinement technique before, but it was too unbearable. Bloodline, so the body refining technique? It seemed that Mo Wen and the other guardians of the Lingxiao Mansion, who were at the half-primal core realm, were not ordinary people. After all, they could only continue on the path of refining their bodies. "Oh right, senior brother, these pills are for you." Yi Xian suddenly took out a bottle of pills. "This is..." Mo Wen looked at it in astonishment. "This is a pill concocted by me. It can increase the efficiency of the body refining technique. It can also reduce pain. It's especially suitable for people who cultivate the body refining technique." Yi Xian answered. After Mo Wen heard this, his eyes lit up. He was currently stuck at a crucial point. He had already tried a few times but he couldn't break through. If he consumed this pill, he might be able to succeed. "Alright, thank you very much." Mo Wen didn't hesitate and accepted it. Then he asked, "Oh right, why are you here today?" Yi Xian just remembered that he was here to challenge someone. He immediately said, "We've been promoted to the heavenly abode. Today we're here to challenge someone." Challenge? Imowen was a little astonished, but he didn't think too much about it. He took out a name list and asked, "Who do you want to challenge?" "Let's go first." Yi Xian pushed Song Suijing forward. Song Suijing took a look at the name list and fixed her gaze on the 17th place on the heaven list. Then she pointed at the name and said, "I'll challenge this senior." Imowen was almost scared to death when he saw the name. The 17th place on the heaven list didn't belong to any sect. However, he was a divine core realm warrior. "Junior sister Song, are you kidding me?" Imowen asked in astonishment. "Senior brother Imo, I'm serious. I've already broken through to the divine core realm during the extermination of the beast god sect." Song Suijing smiled mischievously. She was very grateful to Imowen. After all, it was Imowen who arranged for her and Yi Xian to stay in the same courtyard. "What? Divine core realm?" Imowen cried out in surprise. He sensed that he couldn't see through Song Suijing. Even Yi Xian couldn't see through Song Suijing. He was already shocked. In just a few months, both of them had broken through to the divine core realm. This was a huge blow to him. However, he had seen a lot of the world, so he quickly regained his composure. He said, "All right, I'll help you contact them." After he finished speaking, he immediately left. "Little girl, you've merged with the Sword Emperor bloodline, and your sword technique has improved a lot. You can't lose or else I'll spank your butt." Yi Xian scooped up Song Suijing with his left hand. At the same time, his hands started roaming around restlessly, and he almost slipped into the forbidden area. Song Suijing was so scared that she quickly broke free. "You bad guy, you're not allowed to touch me when we're outside." Song Suijing glared at Yi Xian angrily. Although there weren't many people in the heavenly abode, what if someone passed by? Yi Xian smiled and lightly pinched her little nose. "So you're saying that it's okay when we get home?" "Not even when we get home." Song Suijing pouted playfully. She didn't want to stay on this topic any longer, so she quickly changed the topic. "Which senior disciple are you going to challenge later?" "Let's wait and see," Yi Xian casually replied. However, he already had a candidate in mind. "Very well, you're using me to test the strength of those senior disciples?" Song Suijing was a little angry. Yi Xian hastily said, "Of course not. All right, I already have a candidate in mind, why don't you take a guess?" Song Suijing stared at Yi Xian's smiling face. Suddenly she had a guess in her mind. She asked in astonishment, "Don't tell me you're going to challenge senior disciple Zhou Dongfeng, who is ranked 5th on the heavenly ranking?" "Ah, you're really smart." Yi Xian was so happy that he immediately kissed her on the cheek. "Are you crazy? Senior disciple Zhou is in the initial mortal core realm." Song Suijing recalled what happened that day. "What are you afraid of? It's just a challenge. If you lose, you can just come back half a month later." Yi Xian didn't say much, but used the simplest way to reassure Song Suijing. "Then you better be careful." Song Suijing also didn't say much. This was different from the incident in the Tang dynasty. Moreover, she was still very confident in Yi Xian. Although they had both just entered the mortal core realm, she felt that her strength was not on the same level as Yi Xian's. Very soon Imowen returned, bringing back two people at the same time. One was a disciple wearing the uniform of the heavenly abode, while the other was an elder of the soaring cloud mansion. End of chapter. Chapter 227. "You're the one who wants to challenge me?" When the disciple entered the arena and saw the duo hugging each other, he immediately asked. But he was looking at Yi Xian. "It's not me, it's her." Yi Xian and the disciple looked at each other, then let go of Song Suijing and said, "Humph, you've just broken through to the mortal core realm, why don't you spend some time consolidating your cultivation base and come here to challenge me?" The disciple was obviously unhappy, because he could tell that both Yi Xian and Song Suijing were younger than him. Right at this moment, the sect elder walked up to them and said, "So it's little girl Song. I've heard from your grandfather that you two will have extraordinary achievements in the future." "Thank you for the compliment, Grandpa Yen." Song Suijing thanked the sect elder politely. Yen. When Yi Xian heard this name, he immediately realized who it was. This old man was most likely the divine core warrior from the great Yen dynasty, Yen Wendi. It was said that he was the same as Song Qing, an initial mortal core warrior. "All right, I'll be the judge for this challenge. Don't go too far, don't hurt each other," Yen Wendi said. Only now did the disciple realize who Song Suijing was. Wasn't she the new disciple of the sect elder? But he didn't think too much about it. Right now he just wanted to defeat Song Suijing as soon as possible, then go back and continue his cultivation. Song Suijing and the disciple walked onto the arena. Yan Wendy also jumped onto the arena, then he said, "Since you're ready, let's begin." Right after he finished speaking, Song Suijing took out her frost sword. It was a woman's long sword that was emitting cold air. An earth weapon? When the disciple saw the long sword, he was startled. He didn't expect Song Suijing to have an earth weapon. Not many people in the Soaring Heaven Mansion had an earth weapon. Most importantly, he didn't have one. In an instant, his expression changed, then he took out a high-rank spirit longsword. The fight hadn't even started, and he was already weaker in terms of equipment. It was hard to tell who would win this challenge. However, at this moment, "Suijing, change your weapon." Yi Xian suddenly shouted from below the stage. Song Suijing, who was in the arena, was also stunned when she heard this. However, she understood in the next moment and immediately switched the ice frost to the autumn water sword. "You actually dare to look down on me?" This disciple was furious and directly spoke out. The sword rushed forward. Those who knew him had given him a nickname, the Martial Maniac. This was because he spent all his time cultivating, and he didn't show any mercy to girls. There was once when he fought with a Divine Core senior sister disciple for more than 100 rounds, and in the end, both of them were severely injured. Therefore he would not show mercy to Song Suijing. Song Suijing's expression hardened as he watched Chu Li dashing towards him. His Dan Qi gushed out as he launched an attack. Previously, she had merged with a Sword Emperor's bloodline seed, and her combat strength had skyrocketed. However, she was still lacking in combat experience. Therefore, Yi Xian wanted to use this opportunity to train her a little. In an instant, the two figures clashed. Cold lights flashed, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. Yi Xian watched from below the stage with a calm expression. He was quite confident in Song Suijing's combat strength. In the blink of an eye, the two figures on the stage had exchanged more than a dozen moves. Neither of them used any martial arts, and it looked like they were evenly matched. However, as time passed, Song Suijing started to gain the upper hand. How is this possible? Her sword skill is even better than mine? The disciple was shocked. He had spent all his time cultivating his sword, and there were only a handful of people on the heavenly ranking whose sword skill was better than his. He never thought that he would be surpassed by another person today. It made him wonder if his combat strength had stagnated. "Take this. Raging Flame Sword." The disciple suddenly wrapped his weapon with his Dan Qi, then he fiercely swung it out. In an instant, his weapon seemed to ignite, and a faint charred smell wafted out. However, Song Suijing was not to be trifled with. Heavenly Star Sword Technique, Falling Stars. She took a few steps back and waved her long sword a few times. Dazzling stars appeared in front of her. As she stabbed with her long sword, these stars suddenly swept out, and there were more than a dozen of them. This move was performed too quickly. Song Suijing's opponent could not react in time and was directly hit by a few stars. Fortunately, he had used a defensive martial arts technique in time so he could move forward with the stars. However, the real killing move was yet to come. Sky Splitter Sword. Song Suijing shouted in her heart. She waved her long sword, and a white light flashed, directly cutting her opponent's long sword that seemed to be burning in half. Then she quickly stabbed again. Heavenly Star Sword Technique, Meteor Strike. Boom. A huge explosion suddenly occurred in the arena. There was an explosion and a figure was directly blown away. It was the 17th ranked disciple on the heavenly ranking. In fact, when Song Suijing used a mid-rank Earth Realm martial art, the outcome was already decided, because her opponent could not withstand this attack at all. However, this was a challenge arena, not a life-and-death battle. That was why Song Suijing showed mercy, otherwise her opponent would have already become a corpse. Song Suijing wins. Yan Wendy was stunned for a moment, then he shouted loudly. It was quite common for someone who had just entered the mortal core realm to defeat a senior brother of the same level. After all, there had been cases where someone had challenged someone of a higher level. That disciple on the heavenly ranking was defeated by Song Suijing, who did not have a ranking, so his ranking was replaced, and he had to challenge someone else again. However, this was not important. What was important was that he was defeated in less than a minute. "I accept my defeat wholeheartedly, goodbye." He cupped his fist towards Song Suijing then quickly left. Just now, Song Suijing showed mercy, and only blasted him out of the arena. "Yi Xian, I won." Song Suijing shouted in surprise. She directly jumped off the arena and threw herself into Yi Xian's arms. Not bad, I'll give you a reward." Yi Xian smiled and kissed her forehead through her bangs. He was also a little surprised. He did not expect Song Suijing to win so easily. The Sword Emperor bloodline had already exceeded his expectations. After fusing with the Sword Emperor bloodline, Song Suijing's sword technique had become much more brilliant, and the speed of her sword technique was not something an ordinary person could compare with. Speaking of which, Yi Xian himself had never used the Heavenly Star Sword technique he learned after fusing with the Sword Emperor bloodline. He would try it out later. Aha! At this moment, Yan Wendy and Mo Wen both walked over. The former coughed, scaring Song Suijing so much that she quickly let go of Yi Xian. I did not expect your ability to improve so much. Yi Xian, who do you want to challenge? Yan Wendy asked directly. Mo Wen was also a little curious. He felt that Yi Xian would be stronger than Song Suijing. I want to challenge senior brother Zhou Dongfeng, Yi Xian replied. Zhou Dongfeng was the disciple of the initial mortal core realm who was ranked 5th on the heavenly ranking. At the same time, he was also Yi Xian's mission. Only by defeating him would Yi Xian be able to meet the Soaring Sky Mansion's great elder Lin Wenyue. End of chapter. Chapter 228. Are you sure? Yan Wendy asked in surprise. Yes. Yi Xian nodded his head seriously. It was just a challenge, it wasn't like he couldn't do it. Alright, then I'll call Zhou Dongfeng over personally. Yan Wendy saw how confident Yi Xian was, so he immediately waved his sleeves and left. As for Mo Wen, he was so shocked that he couldn't say anything. When had he ever thought that the kid from the True Element realm would be able to reach such a realm in such a short amount of time? After a while, Yan Wendy, who had left, returned. At the same time, he brought an indifferent young man with him. The 5th on the heaven ranking Zhou Dongfeng. This Zhou Dongfeng was the top genius of the Soaring Heaven Mansion. He was in the same realm as Yan Wendy, the initial mortal core realm. Also, it was said that his strength had reached the peak of the initial mortal core realm. It was believed that he would soon break through to the profound mortal core realm. After he followed Yan Wendy into the arena, his gaze immediately fell onto Yi Xian. Yi Xian's indifferent look made him very unhappy. At the same time, it reminded him of a saying, a newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. Humph, you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You only know how to forge weapons and concoct pills. If I don't teach you a lesson later, others will think that I, Zhou Dongfeng, am someone who can be casually challenged. Zhou Dongfeng said coldly in his heart. Greetings, senior brother. After seeing the newcomer, Yi Xian respectfully cupped his fists, because from now on, he would be able to call the newcomer junior brother. Stop talking nonsense, let's begin. Zhou Dongfeng said impatiently, then he walked towards the arena. Yan Wendy, who was standing beside him, smiled slightly. Geniuses and experts usually had a sense of arrogance. People like Yi Xian were very rare. Since the opponent was in such a hurry, Yi Xian would naturally accompany him. Be careful. Song Suijing reminded him softly. Don't worry, it's not like you haven't seen my recovery ability. Yi Xian patted her head lightly, then he walked up to the arena. That day when he returned to the Soaring Firmament Mansion, Yi Xian had also lost his mind and chopped off his left arm. Then he didn't take any pills. Instead, he put his severed hand back. After a while, the severed hand reattached itself. After a few minutes, the wound healed. This was the super recovery ability of the 10,000 flower bloodline. Song Suijing had seen Yi Xian reattach his arm with her own eyes, so she was not that worried. Right now, Yi Xian's body was filled with high-grade bloodlines. Next would be top-grade bloodlines and god-grade bloodlines. Yi Xian speculated that if he raised the 10,000 flower bloodline to the highest level, he might be able to regrow his limbs. If that was really the case, then he would really be an unkillable cockroach. As long as his vital points weren't hit and he didn't die instantly, then he would be invincible. The two of them walked to the foot of the stage. Then Yi Xian took out his earth artifact, the Nebula Sword. As for Zhou Dongfeng, he also took out 2 weapons. They were both earth artifacts. This Zhou Dongfeng cultivates the Earth Tier 36 Gale Swords. Moreover, he modified it into a 2-handed sword. This means that he should be good at speed. Yi Xian looked at Zhou Dongfeng in front of him and thought to himself. Since his opponent didn't take him seriously, then there was no need for him to show mercy. If he wanted to fight, then he had to crush his opponent's confidence and make him live in the shadows in the future. Be careful when you fight. Don't hurt the harmony between us, Yan Wendy reminded from the side. He knew that Yi Xian was Yi Chang's son. He also felt that Yi Xian's strength was extraordinary. However, Zhou Dongfeng was still 1 realm higher than Yi Xian after all. Junior brother, please? Zhou Dongfeng said calmly with his 2 swords in hand. Then you must be careful, senior brother. Yi Xian didn't act pretentiously. He instantly unleashed his speed. At this moment he didn't use any movement technique at all. He simply added his Jindan essence to his feet. That said, Zhou Dongfeng and Yan Wendy were both astonished. Fast. So fast. In the blink of an eye, Yi Xian was already in front of Zhou Dongfeng. Heavenly Star Sword Technique, Falling Stars. Yi Xian waved his hand. Dozens of stars appeared and smashed directly toward Zhou Dongfeng. Zhou Dongfeng relied on his attack speed to make a living. He waved his hands and destroyed the stars like lightning. Oh, you have some skills. Yi Xian was shocked. However, this was only the appetizer. What came next was the real deal. Heavenly Star Sword Technique, Falling Stars. Dozens of stars swept over again. Zhou Dongfeng didn't panic. He alternated between slashing with his hands and easily destroyed more than half of these stars. However, in the next moment his expression suddenly froze. He saw another wave of stars coming toward him. Yi Xian's attack speed was so fast that he couldn't turn his head. This chapter is not finished, please turn the page, don't get out of my way. You do have some ability. No wonder you dare to challenge me. However, you're too weak. Zhou Dongfeng shouted in his mind. He skillfully dodged Yi Xian's waves of falling stars, then he dashed in front of Yi Xian. Gale 36 swords. Zhou Dongfeng struck out with both swords at the same time. In an instant he had struck out a total of 36 times. This was his ultimate martial skill. None of his fellow disciples at the same level as him could perfectly withstand this attack. Even a late Mortal Core warrior would have to be cautious when facing this attack. Yi Xian was just a new Mortal Core warrior, how could he block this attack? However, he was wrong and very wrong. Yi Xian wasn't an ordinary warrior. His body had merged with the high-rank Fist Emperor's bloodline. His attack speed was much faster than Zhou Dongfeng's. He had withstood all of the 36 sword strikes with just the Nebula Sword. What? This is impossible. Zhou Dongfeng was shocked. His best attack had been blocked by someone, and his opponent was one level lower than him. He couldn't believe it. He then struck out with the Gale 36 swords again at Yi Xian. Just now he only wanted to teach Yi Xian a lesson, that's why he went easy on him. But this time he attacked with all his strength. This time his attack speed had increased by at least 50%. However, this was of no use. Yi Xian was still able to easily block all 36 swords. Left and right mutual combat, how can it be compared to my unicorn arm? Have a taste of this. Yi Xian suddenly took out the second Nebula Sword from his storage ring. In the next second both of his hands disappeared. No, it was so fast that even Zhou Dongfeng couldn't see it. Heavenly Star Sword Style, Falling Stars. Heavenly Star Sword Style, Falling Stars. Yi Xian struck out with both of his hands, and 2 times the number of stars appeared in front of Zhou Dongfeng. The latter was shocked and quickly withdrew his hands to defend himself. But he was only able to defend against half of the attacks. The other half hit his body directly. Bang, 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 bang. Muffled sounds rang out one after another as Zhou Dongfeng continuously retreated. The clothes on his body were already riddled with holes from the explosion, revealing his body that was full of scars. At this moment Yi Xian's lips curled up slightly. He raised his right hand and pierced forward. Meteor Strike. End of chapter. Chapter 229. Meteor Strike. A beam of light pierced through Zhou Dongfeng's chest and sent him flying. Plop. Zhou Dongfeng didn't fall out of the arena, but Yi Xian followed closely behind him and placed the Nebula Sword on Zhou Dongfeng's neck. Junior disciple Zhou, you've lost. Yi Xian said with a calm tone. When this voice entered Zhou Dongfeng's ears, his body trembled violently. He was at the initial Mortal Core realm, but he was defeated by Yi Xian who had just broken through to the Mortal Core realm. Challenging someone who was at a higher cultivation level than him, this was definitely a disgrace. Zhou Dongfeng's face was gloomy. He didn't say anything but he quietly got up and walked down the arena, leaving silently. From the beginning to the end he didn't say a single word. However, in his heart he swore that he would win it all back. But the difficulty of this was not ordinary. Looking at Zhou Dongfeng's back as he left, Yi Xian thought to himself, the high-grade bloodline is indeed a great springboard, it allowed my strength to increase by a large margin. If I use the implosion technique, perhaps I can fight with a Mortal Core warrior. He was very satisfied with his current strength. However, he wasn't interested in fighting for the Earth ranking. The reason why he challenged the 5th ranked on the Heaven ranking was because he wanted to see the Great Elder. Below the arena, Song Suijing, Yan Wendy and Mo Wen were all stunned. At first they didn't think that Yi Xian could win, but Yi Xian really did it. Moreover, he did it with ease. You really won. Song Suijing looked at Yi Xian who was walking down the arena with a shocked expression. Remember, you must have confidence in me in the future. Yi Xian lightly pinched Song Suijing's pink little face. Humph, luckily I didn't bet with you this time, Song Suijing muttered softly. Recently she had learned to be obedient, and that was to never bet with Yi Xian. Look, she had lost herself. Yi Xian laughed dryly, then turned around and said, Senior brother, please give me the ranking token. Imowen was stunned. He immediately took out a special token from his heaven and earth ring and threw it over. This was the Earth Rolls ranking token. Only the word heaven and the number 5 were engraved on it. The 5th on the heaven leaderboard, Yi Xian. Now he could go and find the Grand Supreme Elder. Many thanks, senior brother. Senior, I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Yi Xian cupped his fists at the two of them, then pulled Song Suijing and left. Perhaps Imowen did not know, but Yan Wendy knew that Yi Xian had gone to look for the sect Grand Elder. Geniuses are geniuses. Both father and son are geniuses. I have lived for nothing. Yan Wendy shook his head helplessly. Yi Xian still had the energy to defeat Zhou Dongfeng, which meant that he could also defeat him. After leaving the battle arena, Yi Xian headed towards the Lingxiao Peak where the upper echelons of the Lingxiao Mansion lived. Now, Song Suijing also knew that Yi Xian's real purpose in coming to the Lingxiao Mansion was to find Lin Wenyue and find out about Yi Chang's whereabouts. Song Suijing was also very curious. Just how powerful was Yi Xian's father? After a while, Yi Xian stepped into the Lingxiao Mansion. Then he went straight to the sect Grand Supreme Elder's residence. The sect Grand Supreme Elder Zhou Yan had just come out of the residence and bumped into Yi Xian and Song Suijing. Why are you here? The sect Grand Supreme Elder was slightly surprised. Yi Xian did not waste any time and directly threw a token over. Zhou Yan took the token and looked at it. His whole body trembled as he exclaimed, 5th on the heaven leaderboard? Yi Xian, you defeated Zhou Dongfeng? Master, it happened just now, Song Suijing said proudly as she held Yi Xian's hand. This? Zhou Yan paused. He had just met Yi Xian. He did not expect that in less than 2 hours, Yi Xian would fight his way to 5th on the heaven leaderboard. This was too unbelievable. Sect Grand Supreme Elder, you said before that as long as I. Yi Xian said. However, before he could finish, Zhou Yan interrupted him. I know. You two go in and wait for a while. After he finished speaking, he quickly left. Even Yi Xian did not have time to react to this speed. As expected of the sect Grand Supreme Elder of the Lingxiao Mansion, an Earth Core expert. Without any hesitation, Yi Xian and Song Suijing walked in and waited inside. Suijing, you've been under the sect Grand Supreme Elder's tutelage for some time now, but I don't think he has given you anything, right? Yi Xian suddenly asked. And? Song Suijing nodded her head. Yi Xian continued, how can that be? We'll have to wait for him to get something later. At the very least, we'll have to get a mid-grade Earth-level martial art. Why do you always want to trick others? Song Suijing rolled her beautiful eyes and quietly stared at Yi Xian. I'm just helping you. You're an 18-year-old divine core warrior, and I think your brother will reach the same level soon. If I don't trick him, wouldn't that be letting him off easy? Yi Xian whispered. He couldn't let anyone hear what he just said, or else he would be in deep trouble. But, as the sect Grand Supreme Elder of the Lingxiao Mansion, he definitely had a mid-rank earth martial skill. Song Suijing was his disciple with the best potential, so of course he would focus on training her. About 10 minutes later, the sect Grand Supreme Elder came back alone. The sect chief has agreed, but he only allows you to find when you. As for whether she wants to see you or not, that will depend on your own ability. The sect Grand Supreme Elder told Yi Xian. I understand. Yi Xian nodded his head. If the sect Grand Supreme Elder didn't want to see him, there was nothing he could do. All right. The sect Grand Supreme Elder nodded his head, then he continued, since you're able to come here, I assume you've gone through 3 forks. You'll find a bamboo forest if you follow the other path. When you lives in the bamboo forest. Thank you for telling me, sect Grand Supreme Elder. After saying that, Yi Xian immediately left. As for Song Suijing, she stayed here. After leaving the sect Grand Supreme Elder's residence, Yi Xian went back the way he came and found another fork in the road. At this moment he was feeling a little excited. He didn't know if Lin Wenyue would want to see him or kill him. This was a question worth pondering. However, Yi Xian had to go in. After running for about 5 minutes he saw a bamboo forest. However, this bamboo forest wasn't green, but orange-yellow like the color of fallen leaves. Yi Xian directly stepped into the forest. At the same time he looked around and realized that these strange bamboos were all natural treasures. The yuan qi of heaven and earth here was much more abundant than other places on the Lingxiao Peak. After entering the bamboo forest, he found another direction to go in. The orange-yellow bamboos were tall and dense. In addition, there was still fog in the bamboo forest. After walking for more than 10 minutes, Yi Xian still couldn't find the sect Grand Supreme Elder's residence. F***CK, don't tell me I'm lost? I have a good sense of direction. Yi Xian felt a little helpless. He wanted to go back to the fork in the road, but he realized that he couldn't. End of chapter. Chapter 230. The person who walked into the Longevity Spring Pavilion was Sun Qiu, who everyone in the imperial capital knew, Lord Sunday. As one of the only 4 supervisors in the capital, ordinary people didn't dare to provoke him. Everyone looked at him with admiration, putting down their bowls and chopsticks as they watched this big shot arrive. Are there any private rooms left? Sun Qiu swept his gaze over everyone and frowned slightly. Then he looked at the waiter and asked in a low voice. Unfortunately, the private rooms are all full tonight. Why don't you make do with it for the night? The waiter had an apologetic expression as he apologized. I only stayed in the mansion for a while, but I'm already late. Find me a seat by the window, ordered Sun Qiu coldly. The waiter quickly agreed, but looking around, there were 8 seats by the window, and they were all occupied by either the deputy minister or the captain. The restaurant couldn't afford to offend them. Looking around, the waiter's gaze landed on Jiang Xiaofan's group. The poor people of the outer city wore rough clothes. Although they had some money, the 3 of them were so young that they definitely weren't people with power. They were naturally easy targets. Sir, since the supervisor is here, why don't you give up your seat? The waiter rubbed his hands together and smiled as he replied. Jiang Xiaofan had been humble for more than 10 years. Now that he had the system, he had begun his path to power. What he was least afraid of was this so-called power. He even dared to kill a rank 1 city lord. You, a rank 4 supervisor, are not even worth a fart in his eyes. Is the supervisor very powerful? Jiang Xiaofan raised his hand and bit off a large mouthful of meat from the drumstick. After chewing a few times, he continued, even if the heavenly king comes, I won't leave this table today. This? The waiter revealed an awkward expression, but Jiang Xiaofan's high-profile tone allowed him to avoid paying the price of being the mediator. That was because when Sun Qiu heard Jiang Xiaofan's words, he was so angry that his beard was about to go crooked. He glared at Jiang Xiaofan fiercely. The surroundings were so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. Sun Qiu walked forward and slammed his hand on the table. He shouted, a mere lowly commoner dares to insult me. If you let me go today, I will be magnanimous and let bygones be bygones. If you don't, Jiang Xiaofan put down the drumstick in his hand, picked up the brocade handkerchief on the side of the table and wiped his mouth. He looked up and asked with a smile, if I don't let you go, what will you do? You really won't let me? Why should I let? Black Dragon, Black Tiger. Following Sun Qiu's angry shout, the 2 Earth martial arts realm experts behind him stepped forward and stomped on the ground. A strong wave suddenly surged out. I'm here? At this moment, when the shopkeeper heard that something was wrong, he hurriedly walked out from the back hall and advised, Lord Sun, please calm down. Don't ruin your good mood by coming to drink at night. That's right, then let's see how shopkeeper Qian deals with this matter, Sun Qiu said with a cold snort. Qian Liang was the shopkeeper of the Longevity Spring Restaurant. As the foundation of the Qian family, the Longevity Spring Restaurant had been prosperous for hundreds of years. He naturally knew how to judge the situation. He naturally could not offend the officials, especially in this era where eunuchs ran amok. It was even more difficult for him to take every step, and he had to be careful. He looked at Jiang Xiaofan and said with a smile, Objective, how about this? I'll give you half the price for tonight's dishes and wine. You have to suffer a little, why don't you change tables? He dealt with it tactfully and did not offend anyone, but this was to give the weak a way out. In front of Jiang Xiaofan's character, who could not stand even a little bit of injustice, it was useless. It was not that he was stubborn, but he just did not want to see the smug faces of these so-called big shots. He just wanted to beat him up. 4 silver connections, a total of 4 million copper coins. He slammed the table and said, no need for half price. Give me 2 more jugs of good wine. I will not leave this place until I'm full today. Once he said that, the surrounding atmosphere instantly froze, and the surrounding diners also started to discuss. This kid has a backbone. He even dares to talk back to a supervisor. He's just a brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He doesn't even know how he died. I think he will probably disappear from the imperial capital tomorrow. Isn't that right? Even if he had 9 lives, he wouldn't be able to die after offending a supervisor. Interesting. Sun Xiu smiled and shook his head. He looked relaxed and calm, but his eyes were filled with killing intent. He raised his arm and was slightly startled. Immediately, a wave of pressure pressed down on Jiang Xiaofan. At that moment, Wang Tietue and the other two were also rubbing their palms together, ready to fight. Bang! A wave of energy surged out. What He Long didn't expect was that the pressure of the Earth martial arts realm could not affect Jiang Xiaofan at all. Even when the pressure collided, Jiang Xiaofan's pressure was slightly stronger than his. At that moment, He Long also felt that this person's pressure was not weak. He quickly supported him and pressed his own pressure towards Jiang Xiaofan. The surrounding people were cultivators. How could they not see that Jiang Xiaofan was doomed today? However, it seemed that things were not as simple as they thought. The two of them released their pressure at the same time. They didn't expect Jiang Xiaofan to be able to withstand it. In fact, Jiang Xiaofan naturally couldn't withstand the pressure of two people at the later stage of the Earth martial arts realm. However, with the great power of divine might, he could completely ignore the pressure of the same realm. Since he couldn't withstand it, he would just ignore it. Jiang Xiaofan's expression did not change. He raised his hand and poured himself a bowl of wine. He raised it to the three brothers and said, "What are you looking at? Drink up. There are still 2 jars of wine left. Tonight we won't go home until we are drunk." "Boss, come. I respect you for being a man." The 4 people raised the wine bowls in their hands at the same time. They didn't take the pressure of 2 people at the Earth martial arts realm seriously at all. Everyone gasped. To be able to ignore the pressure of 2 people at the Earth martial arts realm, he probably had the strength of the Sky martial arts realm. Such a young boy could have the strength of the Sky martial arts realm. Only a large family with a descendant of a super bloodline could have the strength of such a young man. There were only a few people in the Sky martial arts realm in the imperial capital. They had never seen someone like Jiang Xiaofan. Of course, no one knew that the person sitting here was Jiang Xiaofan, whom the emperor had personally searched for. If they really knew, Sun Xiu would definitely not dare to offend him. Whoosh! At that moment, a slight sound of wind breaking came into Jiang Xiaofan's ears. He slightly turned his body, and a silver needle almost flew past the tip of his nose. He was a little surprised, but Sun Xiu was even more surprised. He had been practicing silver needles and hidden weapons since he was young, and there were very few people who could dodge his sneak attack. Today an unknown junior had actually dodged it. It was a great humiliation. "Kill him." Sun Xiu's tone was cold as he said in a deep voice. Once he said that, the surrounding diners all paid their bills and left. With the supervisor's tone and expression, they were destined to see blood tonight. If they didn't want to be implicated, it was better to leave as soon as possible. Black Dragon and Black Tiger knew that Jiang Xiaofan wasn't weak. They attacked at the same time and used all their strength. 4 hands turned into fists and punched at Jiang Xiaofan at the same time. Swish! Right at that moment, Jiang Xiaofan swallowed a battle spirit elixir. With the support of the combat martial body and the god power, he instantly appeared behind the 2 of them and released the wolf tiger kill. 2 punches landed on the backs of the 2 of them at the same time. 1 punch from each of them sent them flying. They crashed into several wooden tables and rolled on the ground for a few meters. They only stopped when they hit the wall and spat out a mouthful of blood. One of them had internal injuries and the other had external injuries. They had lost the ability to fight for a short period of time. At that moment, those customers had yet to walk out of the Longevity Spring restaurant. In just a blink of an eye, Sun Xiu's 2 bodyguards were killed just like that. Who exactly was this Jiang Xiaofan? Die. At that moment, Sun Xiu was completely enraged. His palms crackled as he slammed towards Jiang Xiaofan's back in a flash. What the F***ck? Jiang Xiaofan was secretly shocked. He originally thought that Black Dragon and Black Tiger had no combat power as bodyguards. He didn't expect Sun Xiu to not only have combat power, but he was also a big shot with a bloodline inheritance. Early stage Sky Martial Realm, Thunder Element. Jiang Xiaofan quickly took a step forward to dodge the attack, but he was still struck by the lightning on his back. He immediately felt his hair stand on end as a numbness came from his back. His arms couldn't help but tremble. "You still dare to dodge? I will let you know the consequences of being arrogant today." After speaking, Sun Xiu's body was covered with electric currents. He clenched his fists and charged straight at Jiang Xiaofan. This elemental power wasn't to be trifled with, especially this lightning element. It was even more deadly and he would probably suffer a great loss if he directly touched it. Just as Jiang Xiaofan was about to make a move, a shout came from the entrance of the Longevity Spring restaurant. Who is causing trouble in the inner city of the royal capital? Sun Xiu's fist was about to touch Jiang Xiaofan's face, but he stopped. No matter how he looked at it, it was Jiang Xiaofan who had injured two people and caused trouble. If he injured Jiang Xiaofan, things would probably become much more complicated. There was only one department in the inner city that could speak in such a tone and manage the peace of the royal capital: the royal guards. Sun Xiu hurriedly turned around. At this moment there were two people standing behind him. They were dressed in silver armor, and they were rank 4 imperial guards. Although they were of the same rank as him and only commanded a few hundred soldiers, they were all genuine imperial guards. They were on a completely different level from the soldiers in the outer city. P.S. Royal Forest Guards Major 4th rank, Royal Forest Guards Major 9th rank. Everyone, please don't mix it up. It's all my fault for not setting up the official position properly. I can't change it anymore. Sun Xiu pointed at Jiang Xiaofan's nose and said, "Sirs, this kid is causing trouble here. Quickly take him down so that he doesn't endanger the safety of the royal capital." They had come to Longevity Restaurant to reserve a table for their officers before patrolling the night. They did not expect to encounter such a thing. The two looked at Jiang Xiaofan and frowned. They quickly walked forward. Sun Xiu's lips curled up as he stood beside Jiang Xiaofan and said in a low voice, "Kid, who do you think you are to fight with me?" Jiang Xiaofan's heart did not waver when he saw Sun Xiu's smug look. The surrounding diners and the shopkeeper Qian Liang also let out a long sigh of relief. They could finally chase this little brat away. Otherwise it would not be easy to clean up the mess tonight. However, what everyone did not expect was that the two of them came in front of Jiang Xiaofan and cupped their fists. "Lord Jiang." Sun Xiu's eyes widened and he looked at Jiang Xiaofan in disbelief. If he had not heard it with his own ears, he would not have believed that two rank 4 royal guards would actually call this young man in linen Lord. Jiang Xiaofan waved his hand. "Don't call me Lord. I'm just a small official. It's not worth mentioning." Chapter 231. Hiss. The people around all gasped. To be able to make the royal guards, a department personally managed by the emperor, so respectful, apart from a few high-ranking officials, it could only be the commanding officer of the royal guards. In that case, Jiang Xiaofan was at least a 3rd-rank iron-armored royal guard. Lord Jiang, the iron-armored royal guard, as long as he was well informed, he would naturally be able to contact the incident at the Imperial Equipment Department in the outer city a few days ago, as well as the princess's personal bodyguard, iron-armored royal guard, Jiang Xiaofan. Thinking of this, Sun Xiu hurriedly bowed. "Lord Jiang, I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Please forgive me." The surrounding diners were all stunned on the spot. This was really like water rushing against the temple of the Dragon King. Not only did he contradict his own people, but he also contradicted an even higher official. Wasn't this looking for trouble? Jiang Xiaofan was not angry. Instead, he sat back on the chair and smiled at Qian Liang. "Shopkeeper, why isn't my wine served yet? Please wait a moment." "Half price. Half price, half price." "Thanks." Jiang Xiaofan shrugged, then turned to look at Sun Xiu and said, "Don't you want to eat? Do you want me to give you a seat?" "No need, no need. Lord, please enjoy your meal." Sun Xiu wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. "Then go to your work. Don't disturb my meal." "Yes, yes, yes." Black Dragon and Black Tiger supported each other and limped out of the Longevity Spring restaurant with Sun Xiu. At this moment, the surrounding customers all looked at Jiang Xiaofan with envy. He was just a lowly commoner just now, and now he had become a high-end player, scaring away these arrogant high-ranking officials. Actually, Sun Xiu was not afraid of the royal guards. The key was that Jiang Xiaofan had a strong backer like Long Shi. Moreover, everyone in the court knew about his identity. Princess Long Shi was the only hope to cure her chronic illness. If he was injured and His Majesty blamed him, it would be considered a light punishment for him to not dig up his ancestral grave and whip his corpse. At this moment, footsteps came from outside. A dozen people walked into the Longevity Spring restaurant, and Jiang Xiaofan recognized the two people in front at a glance. It was Yi Yi and the other person was Yi Hao. They were acquaintances and had helped each other before. In addition, they were from the same department. Naturally, they were quite enthusiastic. "Young hero Jiang is here too." Yi smiled and bowed slightly. After all, Jiang Xiaofan had saved his life. This favor was not easily repaid. Yi Hao was also shocked. He quickly walked forward and patted Jiang Xiaofan's shoulder. "Not bad. I haven't seen you for a few months, so I went out to investigate some things. When I came back, I heard that you became a royal guard." To Yi Hao, Jiang Xiaofan's alchemy ability was truly uncanny. He even saved the princess's life in a critical moment. Otherwise he would not be able to protect himself. This was also one of the reasons why he admired Jiang Xiaofan. Jiang Xiaofan stood up and smiled at Yi Hao. That's right. Master Wei said that I can only go to the royal guards to feed the horses. Then I have to show off my abilities. Otherwise he will look down on me. Ha ha ha. Yi Hao laughed and said, since old friends are reunited today, let me treat you to a meal. There's no need for that. I will give you a half-price discount today. Everyone sit together. I will treat all of you as a new official. Let's celebrate. Seeing that Yi Hao was about to reject, Jiang Xiaofan picked up a large bowl and filled it with liquor. Don't say anything. It's all in the liquor. After putting a few wooden tables together, a dozen royal guards sat in a circle. The dishes were delicious and the liquor was mellow. Everyone had a great time chatting, from the inner city to the outer city, from daily life to daily life. This night was also Jiang Xiaofan's most hearty night since he arrived at the imperial capital. Yi Hao and the others had to go on night patrol in the middle of the night, so they dispersed. A meal cost 2 million copper coins. The expenses of a dozen strong men were not small, but Jiang Xiaofan never cared about this money. 2 silver coins made him happy for a night, and it was worth it. After a quiet night, Jiang Xiaofan and the 3 brothers slept soundly under the influence of alcohol. The next morning, Jiang Xiaofan washed up and went straight to the entrance of the imperial palace. Due to drinking too much, Jiang Xiaofan had a hangover and he felt dizzy. Fortunately, he refined an elixir to sober him up, which made him feel better. She had been waiting at the door for a long time. After seeing Jiang Xiaofan, she hurriedly trotted forward and said, Master, I have something to tell you. Yes, what is it? Jiang Xiaofan asked in confusion. She pursed her pink lips and said, Father said that there is no way to go to the immortal abode directly. It will be a month later at the earliest. A month? Jiang Xiaofan murmured, then smiled and said, All right, then you have to work hard this month. Yes. Everything that followed was naturally simple and rough. As a straight man, how could Jiang Xiaofan have tender feelings for the fairer sex? Since she said she could stand it, then he would forget that she could not stand it. It was not that Jiang Xiaofan was a sadist. The key was that the improvement of his physical body would directly determine whether he could obtain the recognition of the Azure Dragon bloodline and open the Dantian. At the same time, it would ensure Longxi's safety. Not to mention him, even Jiang Xiaofan did not dare to say that the god-level bloodline power that he had accumulated for more than 10 years would be released from his Dantian in one go. Although Longxi was a princess and was usually delicate, she gritted her teeth in this matter and did not refuse at all. She tried her best to improve herself. This also made Jiang Xiaofan, as her master, very gratified. Of course, while Longxi was working hard to train her physical body, Jiang Xiaofan was not idle either. He found a corner and started to rush for alchemy again. Now that he had a huge amount of spiritual herbs, it would be a waste if he did not rush for alchemy. What he wanted to do was to break through to heaven-grade alchemy and become an immortal-grade alchemist. There were very few records of immortal pills in the Divine Medicine King book. He felt that it might be the same as the 100 Refinements Divine book. His realm was not high enough, so he could not see things of a higher level. If he became an immortal-grade alchemist, he would probably become the most handsome man in the northern border and even the entire Spirit Brilliance world. After the elixir was cast and placed into the storage ring, it would be taken away by Hen Zhu in the next second. Chao Mo was complaining at the side. However, at this moment, a piece of news in the palace made the entire city boil. The immortal abode cultivation was brought forward, and the quota would be confirmed a month later. 20 members of the royal family could bring one person in. There were 20 officials in the royal capital. Other than these who were almost predetermined, there were a total of 50 spots left. These spots would be chosen by the golden-armored Imperial Guard Chu Heng and the commander of the Ministry of War, by moxing from among the soldiers and disciples of the various clans. The immortal abode cultivation that happened once every 3 years made many people yearn for it. It was also a wonderful holy land that all cultivators in the royal capital pursued. In order to successfully enter, everyone cultivated hard. For a time, weapons, elixirs, and the dense forest outside the city became popular. Whether they were rich or poor, strong or weak, they would all fight here. Chapter 232. Time flew by, and more than 20 days had passed unknowingly. The entire city was in high spirits at this moment. The selection day was getting closer, making people excited and yearning. During this period of time, some families were happy while others were sad. However, to Jiang Xiaofan, everything was developing in a good direction. With the nourishment of elixirs and hard training, Longxi went from a mortal body to a level 4 mortal body in half a month. Although it was not high, one could clearly feel the change in her aura and strength. Looking at the slender girl rolling up her sleeves and the muscles on her arms, Jiang Xiaofan could not help but feel a little sorry for her. However, Longxi did not seem to care at all. Instead, she was always very excited and asked Jiang Xiaofan in a cute voice, Master, do you think Xi'er's biceps are bigger?" Facing this muscular Lolita, Jiang Xiaofan could only chuckle. She looked awesome on the surface, but he was cursing in his heart. Of course, Jiang Xiaofan was also idle for the past month. Under the power of the spirit-devouring stone, his physical body had successfully risen to level 6 spirit body. Looking at this progress, he would be able to enter the next physical body realm in at most 2 months. The most noteworthy thing was naturally his alchemy skills. In this half a month, not only did he refine all the spiritual herbs in the interspatial ring into elixirs, he also went to the Imperial Drug Division. Li Bian saw that he went straight to the medicine warehouse and his face turned green. As the princess's imperial physician, how could he not give Jiang Xiaofan the spiritual herbs he wanted? Li Bian went to complain, but was rejected on the spot by Long Tian, who asked him to fully cooperate with Jiang Xiaofan. This time Jiang Xiaofan brought 2 interspatial rings, which contained 10 million spiritual herbs in one go, and all of them were refined. But there was one thing, and that was after his alchemy skills reached heaven level 10, even though his proficiency was already full, he could not advance any further. Regarding this point, even Lien Henzhu could not figure it out, and in the end he could only put it aside for the time being. During this period of time, you have exhausted too much energy from patrolling. You should rest for a few days so that you can recover your energy for entering the Dragon Vein. Jiang Xiaofan patted Longxi's shoulder, which was thin and weak from before, and now only hard muscles could be felt. "Okay. Then, Master, are you coming to the palace to accompany me?" Longxi blinked her big eyes and asked excitedly. Jiang Xiaofan held his forehead and laughed. "I may be going out for a few days. I will look for you when I come back." "Can't I go?" "No." "Okay then, don't stop taking medicine, remember to be on time." "Okay." After settling Longxi and the 3 brothers, Jiang Xiaofan did not stay for long, but left the capital directly. After all, he was Longxi's guard. As long as Longxi agreed, he could leave the capital freely. And the purpose of this trip was not for anything else, but for the Heaven Destroyer sword that was lying quietly in the storage ring. This immortal weapon was extremely powerful, but without a demonic spirit to guard it, it could not be used. It had power but could not be used like a piece of scrap metal. Henzhu said that he had a way to get the demonic spirit. This time he naturally followed Henzhu's instructions and went to a place. Jiang Xiaofan's purpose was to pass through the soul-perching forest and enter the eternal forest of hell. The eternal forest of hell, as the border forest of the northeastern region of the northern borderline, was vast. Not only that, there was also a city there, Zhaoyang City. King Pingwei and the Bai family lived there. They were also an important line of defense at the eastern border, and the place Jiang Xiaofan wanted to go to was this border. Henzhu once said that although all the martial sovereigns on the mainland had fallen, there were still many martial kings. In the imperial city, there were only a few martial kings from the aristocratic families. The number of martial kings hidden in the mountains and forests was much more than the number in the imperial city. The person that Jiang Xiaofan wanted to visit was a martial king. This person was Henzhu's old friend. According to Henzhu, this person had a demonic spirit that had been tamed and was worthy of this immortal weapon. Hearing this news, Jiang Xiaofan did not allow him to stay. He immediately headed northeast. However, the northern borderline was vast, and with Jiang Xiaofan's speed, it would take him 3 to 5 days to reach it. In the end, he rode on the back of the tapir and sped up. They didn't make many stops along the way, but it still took them 2 whole days to get there. In the evening, under Henzhu's guidance, the 3 of them came to a small stream. About 100 meters upstream, there was a thatched hut. Next to the hut was a wooden fence that separated 2 vegetable fields. An old man with white hair and brows was standing by the stream. He took off his trousers and peed as if there was no one around. After he was done, he shook his body twice. Henzhu was standing not far away, laughing loudly. "You old thing, you are not dead yet?" The old man's hunched body shook, and he quickly put away his treasures. He looked at Henzhu fiercely and cursed, "Old bastard! Aren't you also not dead?" As soon as he said that, the 2 of them disappeared and appeared together in the next second. 2 powerful forces collided. Boom! Within 100 meters, sand and gravel flew, and everything was turned into powder. The stream was cut off and the trees were destroyed. Only the thatched hut remained standing in the dim light. The two of them landed on the ground at the same time and gasped for breath. Henju grinned and said, "Old thing, you are old. You are not as strong as before." The old man also smiled and said, "Old bastard, I haven't seen you for a few hundred years. How did you become a trash in the sky martial arts realm? Although my strength has regressed, I can still live for another 200 years. Can you?" Henju's poisonous tongue was activated, and he didn't show any mercy. The old man naturally didn't show any weakness. He snorted coldly and said, "I have lived a good life for the past few hundred years. I am different from a mummy like you. You only know how to live in a coffin. What I am doing is called tactics. You know nothing. You call that a tactic? Trash. Asterisk CK. Eat my kick. Humph. You." The two of them started fighting as if there was no one else around. However, it was obvious that the martial king old man was suppressing his strength. Otherwise, Henju wouldn't be a match for him. Taper and Jiang stood where they were and watched the two fight blankly. They lay on the ground in exhaustion, panting heavily and sweating profusely. Only then did the fight stop. The two of them lay on the ground with their heads facing each other. The old man finally thought of the main topic and asked, "Old bastard, I haven't seen you for a few hundred years. You didn't come here just to fight with me, did you?" "No, I actually came to find you because I want your sparrow." Henju sat up and grinned wretchedly. The old man looked down at his crotch. He raised his hand and slapped Henju's face. He blushed and said, You pervert." As soon as he finished speaking, his figure flashed and he directly flew into the thatched cottage. The thatched cottage shook a little and then there was no more movement. Henju turned his head and said to Jiang and Taper, "Wait here. I'll talk to him." After saying that, he flew into the thatched hut. Not long after, the thatched hut began to shake and creaking sounds could be heard. At the same time, it was accompanied by an old and low moan. Chapter 233. Ever since the incident with Zhou Tsang, Yi Xian didn't trust others. He was afraid that the Grand Elder had bad intentions. After all, they were both surnamed Zhou. Soon he found the Grand Elder's residence and found Song Suijing and Adjudicator Song. "Why are you here? Aren't you going out to train?" Song Suijing, who was cultivating, couldn't help but ask when she saw Yi Xian. "Yes, so I wanted to say hello to you before going out." Yi Xian walked over and gently hugged Song Suijing. Song Suijing didn't resist and leaned her chin on Yi Xian's shoulder and asked softly, "What are you doing?" "Nothing, this is for you." Yi Xian suddenly took out another item. It was a pair of crystal-clear earrings. Song Suijing happily took it and put it on. She was a little surprised and said, "Why are you suddenly giving me jewelry? It's quite pretty." "This isn't an ordinary accessory. It's useful for cultivation. You should wear it," Yi Xian casually explained. However, this pair of earrings cost him a lot of devouring points. This pair of earrings had a special formation that could save his life in a critical moment. Twice. Not only that, even if the earrings were consumed, Yi Xian could still get them. This was just in case. After all, Yi Xian didn't know how long he would be gone. Song Suijing didn't have any doubts and softly reminded, "Although Master said that there isn't much danger in the cave, you still have to be careful." "I will," Yi Xian said and suddenly turned his head. Song Suijing was already used to this action. She immediately tiptoed and pecked Yi Xian's cheek. Yi Xian was also immersed in the world of two people. He was lucky to have a beautiful and cute fiancée. However, he also had to put in double the effort. Not only did he have to improve himself, but he also had to make Song Suijing work together. "Alright, cultivate well here and wait for me to come back." Yi Xian gently rubbed Song Suijing's head. "Yes." Song Suijing nodded obediently. To be honest, she really wanted to go with Yi Xian, but she was not strong enough. He was afraid that he would be a burden to Yi Xian, so he could only stay in Soaring Firmament Manor and cultivate properly. After bidding farewell to Song Suijing, Yi Xian returned to the heavenly abode and met up at the entrance. At this moment, there was already a soaring sky great peng waiting at the entrance of the heavenly abode. Other than that, there were 4 other figures. Among the 4 figures, one was Grand Elder Zhou Yan, another was the Divine Prefecture Alliance's Deputy Alliance Leader Jianghu. As for the other 2, Yi Xian had never seen them before. When the Grand Elder saw Yi Xian, he shouted, "This time I will personally send you all there. After that, I will make a trip to the central province. The people from the other 3 prefectures have already set off. Come on up." Yi Xian jumped onto the back of the soaring sky great peng. "Let me introduce you. This is Yi Xian." Jianghu smiled and introduced, "Yi Xian, this is junior brother Shaoan, ranked 3rd on the heaven leaderboard." This is Xianxia, ranked 4th on the heaven leaderboard. Greetings, senior brothers. Yi Xian hurriedly cupped his fists. Jianghu was ranked 2nd on the heaven leaderboard. Now that the 3rd, 4th and 5th were here, there were 4 people. Junior brother is so strong at such a young age. You will definitely surpass us in the future. The young man named Xiaoan smiled. As for Xianxia, he politely nodded his head at Yi Xian. He didn't say anything. It seemed like he was a person who preferred silence. Alright, stop talking nonsense. Let's hurry up. After saying that, the Grand Elder commanded the soaring sky Great Peng to fly up into the air and fly towards a certain direction. Originally, the mission of exploring the cave was given to the top 4 disciples from each prefecture. However, the top disciple from the Heavenly Prefecture, who was also the chief of the Divine Prefecture Alliance, had yet to return from the Central Province. Zhou Dongfeng, who was originally ranked 5th, was also pushed down by Yi Xian. Therefore it was Yi Xian's turn now. Yi Xian was under a lot of pressure. Jianghu, Xiaoan and Xianxia were all late mortal core warriors, and they were only 1 step away from the Earth Core realm. As for him, he hadn't even reached the mid-mortal core realm. However, besides these 3 there were still people from the Earth Prefecture, Shen Prefecture and Huang Prefecture. Therefore, with Yi Xian's strength, he was able to be ranked at the top of the group. This time, the soaring sky Great Peng flew for a total of 15 days. After flying over countless mountains, they finally landed in a valley. No one. Looks like the disciples from the other 3 prefectures have already entered. Alright, you guys can enter as well. The previous sect master had personally explored this cave once. There are indeed some threats inside, but for the 4 of you, it shouldn't be a problem. The Grand Elder said. Grand Elder, where is this cave? The 3rd-ranked disciple on the heavenly ranking, Xiaoan, looked around in surprise, but he couldn't find anything. This Earthcore warrior was quite famous in the Central Province 100 years ago, but I heard that he died more than 10 years ago. Of course, his cave wouldn't be built here for no reason. Take a look. After the Grand Elder finished speaking, he raised his hand and unleashed a slash. The slash penetrated into one of the stone walls. However, the stone wall wasn't destroyed. Instead, it was slightly warped. So that's how it is. A formation is covering the entrance. Xiaoan immediately understood. At this moment, Jianghu couldn't help but ask, Master, isn't this the territory of the Heavenly Yuan sect? Ah, that's right. This is the territory of the Heavenly Yuan sect. It's a pity that they didn't discover it, so we got lucky. As the Grand Elder spoke, he summoned the soaring sky Great Peng and continued, Alright, I have to make a trip to the Central Province to purchase some forging materials. If you guys are back from your training, go to the Heavenly Yuan sect and borrow a Heavenly Thunder Eagle. Yes. The 4 of them nodded respectfully. After that, the Grand Elder rode the soaring sky Great Peng and left. Alright, let's go in. The other 3 prefectures' junior brothers left a day earlier than us, so they should have arrived by now. If we delay any longer, I'm afraid we won't be able to find anything. After Jianghu finished speaking, he directly entered the stone wall with the illusion formation. Yi Xian and the other 2 followed behind him. The entrance wasn't big and could only fit 2 to 3 people at a time. The valley was boundless, so it was a miracle that the Grand Elder of the Soaring Sky Mansion was able to find this place. After walking for about 10 minutes, the 4 of them finally saw light. As soon as they walked out of the passage, they saw 4 forks in the road. In the middle of the forks there was a huge sculpture. It was at least 30 meters tall. This must be that senior, Jianghu said. When he saw the words at the foot of the sculpture, he was enlightened. So this senior is the famous weapon refiner Huiyang in the Central Province 100 years ago. Moreover, he loves to carve. I'm afraid this large sculpture was personally carved by him. It's really well done. End of chapter. Chapter 234. Huiyang? So it's him. I've heard that this senior likes to study arrays and has some Shen Beast puppets. It seems like the dangers in this palace are these Shen Beast puppets. Xiaoan couldn't help but say. Yes, junior brothers, there are 4 paths here. Let's split up. We might encounter some statues along the way. I hope that you will be merciful and not destroy these statues. Jianghu said and darted into one of the paths. Then I'll take my leave. Take care, junior brothers. Xiaoan also darted into another path. As for the silent Xianxia, he nodded at Yi Xian and left. Now Yi Xian was the only one left. Yi Xian looked at the large statue and stood quietly for a while. Since he was already late, it didn't matter if he was a little late. He felt that there was something strange about the large statue, but he couldn't figure out what was strange about it. Forget it, let's go. Yi Xian was too lazy to think. Now that all three paths were occupied, he could only go to the last one. It had to be said that this cave dwelling was decorated like a castle. There were many murals of Xian beasts on the path, and each one was carved vividly. There were names and descriptions below. He had heard that there were always experts who didn't have children and didn't belong to any faction. Therefore they would build a cave dwelling before they died and place their belongings inside, such as cultivation techniques, divine weapons and treasures. Yi Xian heard from Jianghu that Huiyang was a weapon refiner, so he must have a lot of materials and earth weapons. Yi Xian was very interested in this cave dwelling. Yi Xian walked along the path looking at the murals as he walked. This was because he realized that the murals didn't just depict Xian beasts. There were also other things such as the materials and methods needed to forge certain weapons. Most people who came in would look for treasures and rarely pay attention to these murals. Just now Yi Xian had coincidentally seen a mural of the forging of an earth-level treasure blade. He had also recorded it into the devouring system, but it was not of much value to him. He continued to run forward for a while, and the path that followed was somewhat different. The murals on the walls disappeared, and in their place were stone sculptures. So it's someone who's been in contact with Huiyang, Yi Xian also said. He didn't pay much attention to it and continued to run. Next he encountered his first threat. It was a black leopard, but it wasn't a body. It was a puppet made of an unknown material. Roar! The black leopard pounced at Yi Xian, but in the next moment, it was split in half by Yi Xian. The speed of a half-step origin core realm martial artist? Yi Xian raised his hand and struck out again, destroying the rotating parts in the black leopard's body. He didn't take out any weapons from the beginning to the end. The black leopard's core was destroyed. Yi Xian walked over to it and devoured it. 100 million devouring points for one? Yi Xian was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. It looked like this black leopard's material was quite precious. Although he didn't have much devouring points before this, after completing the forging task, he had gained another 70 billion devouring points. With this trip to the cave he might be able to break through to the initial mortal core realm. Yi Xian continued running forward. There were some palaces in this path and there were many puppet parts along the way as well. These should be the corpses of the disciples from the other three palaces. But most of the corpses were taken away by those disciples. This made him feel somewhat helpless. Too bad, because we had to take care of the disciples from the other three palaces. The four of us were late by a day. All the good stuff has been taken away. He felt very helpless. He had been here for more than an hour, but he hadn't found anything. However, at this moment he suddenly frowned. This was because he actually smelled the scent of blood. He had the bloodline of the myriad beasts in his body, so he was very sensitive to the smell of blood. He squinted his eyes and saw a pool of blood not far from him. It looked like some disciple was injured. Junior disciple. Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded out from behind Yi Xian. Yi Xian's body trembled. He quickly turned around and found that there was another person behind him. Furthermore, he was quite familiar with this person. He was the number 1 on the earth ranking Jianghu. Senior disciple? Why are you here? Yi Xian was very surprised. He knew that Jianghu was also at the initial mortal core realm, but he was able to avoid his senses and come up behind him. I just came from there. Junior disciple, why are you so late? Jianghu walked over with a long sword in his hand and a smile on his face. But right at this moment Yi Xian suddenly frowned and said, "Stop right there." Junior disciple, what's wrong? Jianghu stopped. You want to confuse me with a mere illusory formation? Yi Xian sneered. He took out the 8 desolate sword and slashed at Jianghu. Jianghu was cut in half. In the end, his body began to twist and turn into a black leopard. What a joke. Yi Xian had a high-rank formation-breaking grandmaster in his body. Unless it was a very advanced formation, it couldn't escape his senses. Furthermore, Yi Xian was able to confirm that this was an illusory formation because of his supersonic bat bloodline. He could sense that Jianghu was approaching on all fours. He walked over and devoured the puppet's body. Then he looked around. Then he suddenly leaped up and struck the ground with his palm. Bang! The floor cracked and a purple light entered Yi Xian's eyes. Sure enough, there was a foundation of an illusory formation under the ground. Yi Xian quickly walked over and destroyed the foundation. Then he took away the crystal stones inside. There were a total of 100 high-grade crystal stones, which was equivalent to 10,000 mid-grade crystal stones. A small illusory formation can only be used 1 per day. These 100 high-grade crystal stones can last for another 30 years or so, Yi Xian thought to himself. He suddenly remembered that Huiyang had passed away 100 years ago. In other words, There were at least 400 high-grade crystal stones here before this. Then he began to move forward again. Another hour passed, but he still didn't gain much. He couldn't fall behind by one day. He had no choice but to run as fast as he could in one direction. He had to be ahead of the other disciples. His speed was extremely fast. He estimated that among the 16 people who entered Hui Yang's cavern, his strength was definitely in the top 4. Moreover, he might not necessarily be fourth. An hour of running was equivalent to 2 or 3 hours of running for the others. In just half a day he had entered the cavern. End of chapter. Chapter 235. Isn't this cave a little too big? It would take a group of experts a few years to build this place. Yi Xian estimated in his mind. He had been running around for half a day, and he was sure that he hadn't run twice. In just half a day he had killed dozens of puppets. Including the items he had obtained by chance, his harvest had exceeded 1 million mid-rank crystal stones. Now he was just short of 1 million points and he would be able to break through the 10 million mark. One had to admit that the sect master of Soaring Heaven Mansion was very generous. If he were to explore this cave himself, his harvest would definitely be astronomical. But he gave it to Yi Xian and the other 16 men. Right at this moment. Rumble. A loud noise suddenly sounded out from within the cave. It was definitely not the sound of an ordinary battle. What's going on? Yi Xian was startled. Then he realized that the sound was very close to him. Without hesitation he rushed towards the source of the sound. In less than a minute, he saw a huge puppet that was 10 meters tall chasing after a young man who was wearing the Profound Department's disciple robes. When the young man saw Yi Xian he shouted out loudly, "Senior disciple Yi, be careful. This is a puppet comparable to a mid-mortal core warrior." Yi Xian stood still and sensed for a moment. After confirming that this young man was indeed a human and not an illusion formation, he immediately rushed over. "Get out of the way!" Yi Xian shouted out in a deep voice, then he took out the 8 Desolate Sword. Mid-rank Earth-rank martial skill Sky-breaking slash. A tyrannical wave of Dan essence was instantly slashed out by Yi Xian, forming a huge slash. The slash quickly swept past the young man, then it hit the giant puppet. After that, the young man turned around and saw that the giant puppet had been split in half, and it fell to the ground. Yi Xian had killed so many puppets, and he also had the bloodline of a formation-breaking master. He could easily find the core of the formation within these puppets and kill them with a single strike. The young man's mouth was wide open as he looked at Yi Xian in disbelief. At this moment, Yi Xian realized that this young man was also a member of the Divine Prefecture Alliance. "Brother Yi is indeed powerful. You killed the puppet in one strike," the young man exclaimed. "Thank you, Brother Yi, for saving my life. I am Wuxian." Yi Xian slowly walked over, then he said, "Although you're injured, you're still a divine core warrior. Why can't he defeat this puppet?" Cough. Wuxian laughed dryly and said in shame, "This puppet's defense is extremely strong. I don't have an Earth-grade weapon. Although I can break through its defense with just my Earth-grade martial arts, I will definitely use up all of my Jindan essence." "I see." Yi Xian nodded his head. Although he had given away 10 Earth-grade weapons, it seemed like the Soaring Heaven Mansion hadn't given them to any of their disciples yet. They were probably thinking of using them as rewards. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly took out a nebula sword from his storage ring, then he said, "I have more than one Earth-grade weapon. Junior brother, if you want it, you can exchange it with those puppets' corpses." Wu Shan's eyes lit up when he saw the nebula sword. He hastily said, "Thank you, senior brother. But junior brother only has 30 corpses, I'm not sure if that's enough." "It's enough, give them all to me." Yi Xian nodded his head. An Earth-grade weapon was equivalent to 200,000 mid-rank crystals. If he were to buy one in the central province, it would cost him 300,000 mid-rank crystals. Although these puppets' corpses could be sold for money, they couldn't put out a nearby fire. Without any hesitation, Wu Shan poured out all the puppets' corpses from his storage ring to Yi Xian. "Thank you, senior brother. This huge puppet was also killed by senior brother. Senior brother, you can have it too," Wu Shan said respectfully. Yi Xian didn't hesitate and directly devoured the huge puppet. When he heard the notification in his head, his eyes lit up. "I'm going to cut the grass. This huge puppet was actually worth 10 billion devour points. Alright, let's split up. Take care of yourselves." After witnessing the value of this huge puppet, Yi Xian didn't want to stay any longer. He wanted to hurry up and kill the puppets. Alright. Wu Shan also wanted to move alone. Now that he had the nebula sword, even if he encountered this huge puppet again, he would be able to kill it. However, at this moment he suddenly remembered something and hurriedly said, "Oh right, senior brother, other than the 16 of us, there are other people in this cave abode. They followed behind us and came in." "Other people?" Oh. Yixian was a little surprised. "They are from the Heavenly Yuan sect. They just happened to discover this cave dwelling," Wuxian replied. Heavenly Yuan sect. Hearing this name, Yixian's eyes lit up. 2 years ago he had heard of this name when he was in Lianyun City. Lin Shue'er, who was previously engaged to him, had joined this sect. Now he finally understood what kind of power the Heavenly Yuan sect was. It was the overlord sect in the southern region, and he heard that it was even stronger than the Soaring Heaven Mansion. "I understand. Thank you for telling me, junior brother." Yixian nodded his head, then he left. This cave dwelling didn't have an owner, and it was still in the territory of the Heavenly Yuan sect. As long as there were no conflicts of interest, Yixian wouldn't bother with those people. After all, leveling up was more important. However, his footsteps had unknowingly become faster. He didn't expect the Heavenly Yuan sect to discover this cave dwelling. Now the competition would be huge. He estimated that if he could find another dozen of those puppets, he would be able to break through to the initial mortal core realm. Boom. Before Yixian had even turned the corner, he saw a second giant puppet. When this giant puppet entered Yixian's eyes, he raised his hand and split it in half. A low-grade earth weapon, a mid-grade earth martial skill, and the bloodline of a sword emperor. These 3 factors allowed Yixian's attack to easily break through the giant puppet's defense. Another 10 billion devour points. Previously, the Grand Elder had said that this cave abode was nothing to him. In other words, the strongest thing in this cave dwelling should be this giant puppet. At most, it was comparable to a late mortal core warrior, and there shouldn't be any earth core warriors. As a result, Yixian started to run without the slightest bit of fear. Right at this moment, he had arrived at the deepest part of the cave dwelling. Boom. Another loud noise entered Yixian's ears. But this time it was different from before. It was the sound of someone fighting. "I wonder who it is?" Yixian curiously rushed over. When he turned the corner, he was also stunned. This time there wasn't just one giant puppet, there were 5 of them. "Damn, I've made a fortune." Yixian was overjoyed, but he didn't leave immediately. Instead, he continued to observe. Right at this moment, there were 3 people fighting against the 5 giant puppets. One of them was Wuxian, who Yixian had just met. End of chapter. Chapter 236. So it's him. This guy's luck is really bad meeting 5 of them at once. But the other 2 should be disciples from the Heavenly Yuan sect. He didn't expect to meet 2 disciples from the Heavenly Yuan sect at once. But when he saw the 2 men, he couldn't help but furrow his brows. These 2 Heavenly Yuan sect disciples were both initial mortal core warriors, and they were both holding earth weapons in their hands. They were fighting against 3 huge puppets together. As for Wuxian, who had just broken through to the mortal core realm, he was fighting against 2 puppets by himself. These 2 men are really despicable, they actually left 2 puppets for him. No, these 2 men are trying to kill Wuxian, then collect his corpse. Yixian immediately realized what was going on. Without hesitation he rushed out. But right at this moment, one of the 2 Heavenly Yuan sect disciples threw a punch at Wuxian's back. The punch landed on Wuxian's back, severely injuring him. Wuxian fell to the ground, his face filled with shock. It was already difficult for him to fight against 2 huge puppets, and now he was ambushed. He was immediately stepped on by a huge puppet. This huge puppet wasn't very fast, but its defense was strong, and its attack wasn't weak either. With his 10-meter-tall body, he could easily stomp a half-step origin core warrior to death. Wuxian was just a mortal core warrior who had just broken through to the mortal core realm. Although he wouldn't die after being stomped, he wouldn't be far from death. Damn it. Seeing this, Yixian instinctively ran at full speed as well, but he was still 1 step too late. Bang! The huge puppet stomped down and turned the dying Wuxian into meat paste. His body was badly mutilated and even his head was crushed. Yixian's footsteps paused as he was stunned. One of his fellow disciples had actually died in front of him. In an instant, his eyes spewed out endless murderous intent. If it wasn't for that man's sneak attack, Wuxian would have been able to hold on until he arrived. There's another one from the Soaring Heaven Mansion. At this time, the small-eyed young man who had sneak attacked Wuxian also noticed Yixian, who was standing a few hundred meters away. He revealed a surprised expression. "Damn it, we were seen," another long-haired disciple said in a low voice. "What are you afraid of? You're not as good as him. If you die, then so be it. Let's end this quickly and kill this brat as well." This chapter is not finished, please turn the page. The small-eyed youth didn't care about Yixian at all. As soon as he finished speaking, he cut a huge puppet in half with 2 slashes. The long-haired disciple also dealt with one. At this moment there were only 3 giant puppets left in the field. The small-eyed young man glanced at Yi Xian and discovered that Yi Xian didn't run away. He was also surprised and said, "Oh, it's a heavenly abode disciple. Don't tell me he's stunned?" As he spoke, he easily dealt with another giant puppet. Yi Xian remained silent and watched quietly. After another 10 seconds, the last 2 giant puppets were also cut in half. Although the 2 Heavenly Yuan sect disciples didn't find the core, they had already crippled the 5 puppets. These 5 crippled puppets were no longer a threat to them, so they weren't in a hurry to destroy the core. "Brat, what did you see just now?" After the battle, the small-eyed young man couldn't help but ask. "He's scared silly. Just kill him. Why are you still talking nonsense?" The long-haired young man was a little impatient. "All right, who told him to come at the wrong time? He just happened to see me sneak attack that dead man." The small-eyed young man revealed a devilish smile and said, "However, since he's from the heavenly abode, he might have some skills. Let's attack together to avoid any accidents." The long-haired young man had no objections. In an instant, the 2 of them attacked Yi Xian from both sides. In less than a second, they arrived in front of Yi Xian. At this moment, they were sneering in their hearts because Yi Xian still didn't move. He was probably really scared silly. "Go to hell." A murderous intent flashed in the small-eyed young man's eyes. However, at this moment, the Bahuang sword in Yi Xian's right hand suddenly shattered into pieces, instantly splitting into 8 parts. Bahuang wind-killing formation. Whoosh! The small-eyed young man pointed his sword at Yi Xian's head. However, just as the tip of the sword was about to pierce Yi Xian's forehead, he felt a flash in front of his eyes. Then he felt pain in his arm, thigh, waist, and throat. All of these parts were emitting a cold sensation. He instinctively glanced at his right hand and found that it had been separated from his body. The cut was very neat and there wasn't even blood. This chapter is not finished yet, please turn the page. At this moment, his eyes flashed again. In the next moment, Yi Xian was split in half. His upper body and lower body were separated. However, it wasn't Yi Xian's body that was separated, it was his eyes that were cut in half. In other words, half of his head was cut off. Looking at the small-eyed young man's body that had been cut into dozens of pieces, the long-haired young man who arrived later immediately stopped. He was startled for a second, then he quickly backed off. A person was actually cut into more than 10 pieces in an instant. How did this happen? He couldn't understand. But he didn't have to think about what happened next because his fate was the same as the small-eyed young man's. He was cut into dozens of pieces. Before he died, he saw 8 sharp blades floating in front of Yi Xian. If there was anyone else here right now, they would be scared to death. 2 initial mortal core warriors were cut into pieces in an instant, and Yi Xian didn't even move a finger. Why didn't Yi Xian answer his opponent's question? It was because he didn't want to talk to a dead man. On the floor, there were 2 pools of blood and countless broken limbs. Yi Xian quietly walked over and collected their storage rings and weapons. After that, he walked towards the 5 huge puppets. After destroying the cores one by one, he devoured all 5 puppets. Finally, he walked in front of the dead Wu Shan. "Junior disciple Wu, I've avenged you, rest in peace," Yi Xian murmured to himself. After that, he took out a piece of white cloth and wrapped it around the corpse. He put it into his storage ring, planning to bury it properly when he returned to Soaring Heaven Mansion. He didn't have a good impression of the Heavenly Yuan sect, and now he was even more hostile towards them. The Heavenly Yuan sect and Soaring Heaven Mansion could be considered neighbors, but a disciple of the Heavenly Yuan sect had murdered a disciple of Soaring Heaven Mansion for his own personal gain. Yi Xian had made up his mind, if he ever saw a disciple of the Heavenly Yuan sect again, he would kill them without mercy. However, he didn't know if he was lucky or unlucky today. Just as he was about to check the storage rings of the 2 Heavenly Yuan sect disciples, a series of hurried footsteps suddenly entered Yi Xian's ears. Was it one of his own, or was it a disciple of the Heavenly Yuan sect? Yi Xian quietly stood where he was. If it was a disciple of the Heavenly Yuan sect, he would kill him without hesitation. If it was a disciple of Soaring Heaven Mansion, he would warn him so that he wouldn't die as well. End of chapter. Chapter 237. The footsteps were very fast, they were at least initial mortal core warriors, and there were at least 2 of them. When Yi Xian saw the figure that rushed out from the corner, his furrowed brows loosened. It was Jianghu's older brother, who was ranked 2nd on the heavenly ranking. But, when he saw the man behind Jianghu, his brows immediately tensed up again. It was someone from the Heavenly Yuan sect. And? Junior brother Yi? When Jianghu saw Yixian, he was slightly surprised as well. Yixian was even more surprised. Why was Jianghu with someone from the Heavenly Yuan sect? So it's junior brother Yi. Jianghu immediately ran over. Now Yixian hesitated. He looked at the young man behind Jianghu and couldn't help but ask, "Senior brother, who is he?" "My friend Shihang, ranked 4th on the Heavenly Yuan ranking." Jianghu casually replied. Soaring Heaven Mansion was one of the 4 manors in Heaven, Earth, Profound, and Yellow. But the Heavenly Yuan sect wasn't so complicated. It was only divided into the inner circle and outer circle. As for the inner circle, there was a Heavenly Yuan ranking which was similar to the Heavenly Yuan ranking. This Shihang was ranked 4th on the Heavenly Yuan ranking, which meant he was ranked 4th among all the disciples in the Heavenly Yuan sect. His strength was probably extraordinary. Right at this moment, Jianghu suddenly saw Yixian's strange expression. He asked, "Yixian, what happened to you?" Yixian paused for a moment, then he took a step to the side and said, "Senior brother, just now 2 people from the Heavenly Yuan sect killed junior brother Wuxian." What? Hearing this, Jianghu and Shihang both trembled. They looked at Yixian's figure at the same time. Indeed, there were bloodstains on the ground and there were countless broken limbs in the distance. They were all brutally dismembered by someone. Junior brother He, junior brother Luo? Shihang opened his eyes wide and immediately rushed over. Jianghu's expression changed. He realized that something was wrong. 2 disciples from the Heavenly Yuan sect killed Wu Shan from the Profound Department, and then Yixian avenged Wu Shan by killing those 2. And now Shihang saw these 2 corpses. "Junior brother, what's going on?" Jianghu frowned and asked. After that, Yixian recounted everything that had happened without missing a single word. Nonsense. However, before he could finish his sentence, a loud shout rang out from not far away. Then Jianghu subconsciously said, "Let's go." He stood in front of Yixian. "Shihang, don't be impulsive." Jianghu hurriedly said. This Shihang in front of him was a super genius who had broken through to the mortal core realm. If he suddenly attacked Yixian, Yixian would most likely be killed instantly. Shihang gloomily looked at Yixian. "This brat killed 2 of my Sky Yuan sect's disciples, he must pay with his life." "It was those 2 who launched the sneak attack first," Jianghu retorted. Who knows if this brat is telling the truth? Who knows, maybe he killed his own junior brother with his own hands." Shihang didn't believe him at all. After all, he didn't know Yixian. However, Jianghu believed him. Who was Yixian? A man who could casually earn millions of mid-rank crystal stones? Why would he do something like killing someone and stealing their treasures? Those 2 Sky Yuan sect's disciples didn't have a total of 7 million mid-rank crystal stones, right? Yixian could earn 7 million mid-rank crystal stones in just 3 days. Why would he kill Sky Yuan sect's disciples for such a small amount of money? Jianghu didn't believe it even if he was beaten to death. Impossible, Yixian would never do such a thing. Jianghu still chose to believe Yixian. "Jianghu, get out of my way or else don't blame me for being impolite." Shihang's eyes flickered. He was ready to kill. However, Yixian was still standing there quietly. If it wasn't because Shihang and Jianghu knew each other, he would have already attacked. Perhaps Shihang would have already become a corpse by now. "Shihang, if you want to touch him, you'll have to go through me first." Jianghu took out his weapon, looking like he was going to protect Yixian. Shihang furrowed his brows and asked, "Are you sure? You and I haven't really fought before. If you really want to fight, I, Jianghu, will accompany you. I also want to see if you, the 4th ranked on the heavenly ranking, or I, the 2nd ranked on the heavenly ranking, is stronger." Jianghu didn't back down. This time Shihang hesitated. He knew those 2 corpses, they were both initial mortal core geniuses. When he went over to check, he found out that these 2 died in an instant. This meant that Yixian had the ability to kill initial mortal core warriors in an instant. But when he walked past Yixian, he felt that Yixian was just a mortal core warrior. Therefore, he guessed that Yixian was either a late mortal core warrior or a mortal core warrior. He was a super genius who could kill geniuses who were at a higher cultivation level than him. If it was one-on-one, he wouldn't be afraid of Yixian. But now there was Jianghu. If Yixian suddenly launched a sneak attack during his fight with Jianghu, he would be finished. "Good, very good, I won't let this go. Kid, you better follow Jianghu or else if I see you, you'll die a horrible death." After Shihang said those words, he left in a hurry. Looking at his back, Jianghu let out a sigh of relief. That Shihang was his friend and he had a conflict with him because of this. But Yixian was the strongest genius in Soaring Heaven Mansion, and he was also a member of the Divine Prefecture Alliance. That was why Jianghu couldn't just stand by and watch. "Yixian, did you keep junior disciple Wu Shan's corpse?" Jianghu turned around and asked. Yi Xian nodded. He had kept Wu Shan's corpse in his storage ring, but he didn't have a storage ring. "Sai, I didn't think that such a thing would happen. Shihang will definitely not let this matter rest. Who knows, he might even start a war between our two sections," Jianghu said. He then turned his head and said, "Next, you should come with me." "No need for that, senior disciple, I can protect myself." Yi Xian shook his head. In fact, he was still waiting for Shihang to come. Although he had never fought a mortal core warrior before, he was at least 80% sure that he could kill Shihang. "How can that be? What if you meet him?" Jianghu quickly said. "No, my luck isn't that bad." "Alright, senior disciple, are you good friends with him?" Yi Xian asked. Jianghu was startled for a moment, then he shook his head and said, "No, we just met when we were training in the central province. We fought together before." "I see." Yi Xian nodded his head. It looked like that Shihang could still be killed. "Why don't you come with me? If we really meet him, it'll be troublesome." Jianghu still tried to persuade him. But Yi Xian still refused. "No need for that, senior disciple. With my physique and an upper-rank movement skill, even if we meet him, he won't be able to catch up to me." As soon as these words came out, Jianghu was stunned. Yi Xian actually had an upper-rank movement skill? But what he didn't know was that Yi Xian was just joking. End of chapter. Chapter 238. If that's the case, then be careful. Jianghu didn't ask any more questions. And after Yi Xian nodded his head, he turned around and left, heading towards another direction. After he left, Jianghu stayed where he was for a while. He was worried that Shihang would suddenly turn around and chase after Yi Xian. 10 minutes later he finally left. But he didn't chase after Shihang, instead he headed towards another direction. However, after he left, Yi Xian suddenly reappeared. He looked towards the direction where Shihang left and revealed a strange smile. "You're just a late mortal core warrior, how dare you be so arrogant in front of me? Perhaps you're the same as those two. Today I'll send you to hell," he coldly said in his mind, then he started chasing after Shihang. With the high-ranked supersonic bat bloodline, there was no need for him to worry about not being able to catch up to his opponent. Although it had only been 10 minutes, Yi Xian had already broken through once in these 10 minutes. That's right, he had devoured the 5 corpses of the puppets as well as the items in the 2 men's storage rings. He had now broken through to the initial mortal core realm. Right now, Shihang had no idea that a god of death was chasing after him from behind. What he wanted to do the most right now wasn't to kill Yi Xian, but to find the disciples of Soaring Heaven Mansion. Since things had come to this, there was no need for him to worry anymore. That's why he wanted to hunt down the disciples of Soaring Heaven Mansion. In other words, he wanted to kill them and steal their treasures. Previously, he had heard from Jianghu that there were only 3 late mortal core warriors from the Heavenly Mansion. The rest of them were mostly early mortal core warriors, and only a few of them were initial mortal core warriors. With his strength, killing any one of them he saw wasn't a problem. However, while he was still searching around and listening to the surroundings, a figure had already caught up to him. It was Yi Xian. Found him. Yi Xian, who was behind Shihang, revealed a murderous intent. A late mortal core warrior must have a lot of treasures, and there might even be the corpses of the puppets in his storage ring. The vision in the cave wasn't that dim. From time to time, there would be things glowing in the surroundings. Therefore, Yi Xian couldn't use the Shadow Leopard's bloodline to quietly approach. However, with his current strength, there was no need for a sneak attack. He could just fight head-on. "Shihang." Yi Xian suddenly stopped in his tracks and shouted. "Oh?" When Shihang heard his name, he also abruptly turned around. When he discovered Yi Xian, who was several hundred meters away, his eyes immediately widened. "There was a path to heaven, yet you refused to take it. There was no door to hell, yet you barged in. You have guts. You actually dared to take the initiative to look for me. Did you think that I wouldn't recognize you just because you changed your clothes and wore a mask?" Shihang sneered, but he did not let his guard down. Maybe Jianghu was hiding behind them. He had only fought side by side with Jianghu, so they could only be considered acquaintances. Therefore, it was possible that Jianghu had coveted his belongings and conspired with Yi Xian to kill him. "Don't worry, I'm not with Jianghu." The corners of Yi Xian's mouth curled up slightly. He did not take off his mask. He just did not want others to coincidentally see him kill Shihang. Shihang laughed again. He was a little confused about the situation. However, when he saw Yi Xian walking towards him, his eyes flashed. As long as he was close enough, he could instantly kill Yi Xian. Even if Jianghu followed him, it would be useless. After all, this passage was more than 1,000 meters long. It was long enough. Yi Xian slowly approached. At this time he was only about 200 meters away from Xianxia. If the latter suddenly exploded, it would take less than 2 seconds to close the distance to zero. Looking at Yi Xian, who was full of murderous intent, Xianxia was slightly stunned. His expression became dignified as he said, "Don't tell me you still want to kill me? If I don't kill you, do you think I'm here to die?" Yi Xian smiled indifferently. In the next moment he exploded with speed and directly closed the distance to within 100 meters. So fast, playing the pig to eat the tiger. Xianxia instantly reacted. Previously Yi Xian had killed his 2 junior brothers. His strength was definitely not ordinary, so when he saw Yi Xian he was always vigilant. "Don't underestimate me." 7. He was also a cautious person. After sensing that Yi Xian was not ordinary, he directly used a mid-grade earth-level martial art, preparing to instantly kill Yi Xian. 7 slashes instantly cut through the air, whistling through the wind as they swept in front of Yi Xian. The 7 slashes were from very tricky angles. If Yi Xian wanted to use his movement technique to dodge, it would indeed be difficult. If it was before, Yi Xian and Xianxia were 2 realms apart. If they fought head-on, he did not know if he could win. After all, the Sky Yuan sect was a force stronger than the Soaring Heaven Mansion. But now Yi Xian had no intention of dodging at all. Sky-breaking slash. Yi Xian held the 8 desolate sword in his hand and casually slashed out. A huge arrow light instantly destroyed the 7 slashes, and at the same time, it swept towards Xianxia. Seeing this, Xianxia's eyes widened. With the strength of his Jindan essence, he used an earth-level weapon and a mid-grade earth-level martial art. How was this possible? "Is this your ability to kill me?" Yi Xian sneered, his right hand flashing quickly. Heavenly Star Sword Technique, Falling Stars. Dozens of stars condensed from Jindan essence shot out like arrows from a bow. "Don't underestimate me," Xianxia shouted. He actually shot down all the stars. This strength made Yi Xian look at him in a new light. However, from the beginning until now, Xianxia had been at a disadvantage and was passively taking a beating. Yi Xian did not want to drag this out. Things could change if he delayed, so it was better to end this quickly. Crack. The 8 desolate sword in his hand suddenly broke, splitting into 8 floating blades. At this time he had already rushed in front of Xianxia. 8 desolate wind-killing formation. Yi Xian activated the Jindan essence in his body, and the 8 blades began to spin at high speed. They were so fast that even he could not see them clearly. So fast? How can he be so fast? Xianxia was shocked. He hurriedly used a defensive martial art, a middle-grade earth-level martial art. At the same time he quickly retreated. His speed was at most faster than Yi Xian's running speed with his Jindan essence. If Yi Xian used a movement martial art, he would not be able to escape. The Sky Yuan sect is indeed the Sky Yuan sect. Although I want to learn all kinds of mid-grade martial arts, I can't use them in front of outsiders. So please die. Yi Xian quickly approached and threw out a palm strike. Mid-grade earth-level martial art, Red Flame Palm. A giant flaming palm directly broke through Xianxia's defense and sent him flying at the same time. However, as he was sent flying, Yi Xian controlled the 8 desolate swords and attacked. 8 desolate wind-killing formation, Sky Break. The 8 desolates arranged themselves into a drill bit and directly penetrated Xianxia's chest, creating a palm-sized bloody hole in his chest. End of chapter. Chapter 239. Xianxia's heart had been crushed into pieces. He had died in an instant. A late mortal core warrior had fallen. The Crimson Flame Palm was obtained by Yi Xian after he merged with the high-rank Fist Emperor bloodline. As for this 8 desolate wind formation, it didn't just rotate at high speed according to its trajectory. One of its moves was the Heavenly Charge, and the other was the 8 desolate shield, a defensive formation. But these 2 moves consumed a lot of energy. Yi Xian had just restored his core energy to its peak, but now there wasn't much core energy left in his body. Plop. Xianxia's body fell onto the floor. His face was filled with shock. Yi Xian had taken advantage of his shock to kill him. The 4th ranked on the Heavenly Yuan ranking is just SOSO. Yi Xian coldly harumphed in his mind. But he also knew that the reason he was able to kill Xianxia so quickly was because of the 8 desolate sword. If he didn't have the 8 desolate sword, he would have to fight a tough battle, and then use his advantage in physique to kill Xianxia. He walked over and put away Xianxia's storage ring. Then he put away the corpse. After that, he took out a core energy recovery pill and used it to help his myriad flower bloodline recover his core energy. Soon he would be able to return to his peak. Let me see how much wealth you have as the 4th ranked on the Heavenly Yuan ranking. Yi Xian checked Xianxia's storage ring with his divine sense. 3 giant puppets' corpses, a few dozen smaller puppets' corpses, 5 earth weapons. There's even a mid-rank earth weapon, why didn't he use it? Yixian couldn't help but laugh out loud. The 3 corpses were worth around 30 billion devouring points, the 5 earth weapons were worth around 10 billion, and the mid-rank earth weapon was worth at least 30 billion. Including those materials, there was at least a few hundred billion devouring points. Just now, after Yixian devoured all those materials, his devouring points had broken through to the 200 billion mark. At the same time he had broken through to the initial mortal core realm. But the items in Shihang's storage ring were more than enough. So, he decided to devour all the useless items. He only kept the weapons, materials and some pills as he might be able to use them in the future. 300 billion devouring points, don't you think this zero is a bit too much? If I break through to the late mortal core realm, I'm sure I'll get more than 1 trillion. Yixian thought for a moment. Suddenly, he glanced at the bloodline column and turned pale with fright. All those uncountable zeros are gone. Instead, it was replaced by something called the devouring crystal. So that's how it is. 1 trillion devour points is 1 devour crystal? That's simple. I won't have to deal with so many zeros in the future. Yixian smiled faintly. Now that he had 300 billion devour points, he could buy almost everything at the current level. Right at this moment. Rumble. Suddenly, a loud rumbling sound came from the passage. Yixian was startled. He realized that this was not the sound of a giant puppet fighting. Instead, it sounded like a giant gear turning. At that moment, a thought appeared in Yixian's mind. Could there be some kind of mechanism in this cave? Just as this thought flashed through his mind, he saw one of the murals around him suddenly shatter and open up a new passage. Go down? Yixian frowned. He estimated the height. The height of the palace was about the same as the height of the cliff, so he guessed that there was no second floor. But he did not expect that the second floor was below the cave. This Huiyang is not only a master refiner, but also a master mechanism. Yixian muttered in his heart. Then he went in. The first floor must have some small things. The real good stuff must be on the second floor. The passage leading to the second floor was very dark. Yixian exchanged for some small firefly puppets to light up the path ahead. This way he would not have to worry about a sneak attack. The passage leading to the second floor was very long and winding. Yixian walked for more than 10 minutes before he saw light. I'm finally out. Yixian went through the door and came to a very spacious place. The floor was made of gold and jade. The surrounding walls were inlaid with countless gemstones, illuminating the surroundings. He walked in and saw people coming out from other entrances. There were people from the Sky Yuan sect and Soaring Heaven Mansion. Yixian. Suddenly Yixian heard a shout. He turned his head and saw Jianghu running towards him. Senior brother. Yixian hurriedly shouted. At the same time he glanced over and saw many disciples of Soaring Heaven Mansion running towards them. What's going on? Why are we all gathered together? Jianghu ran closer and asked in shock. I'm not very sure. Yixian shook his head. At this time, people came out from other entrances including Jianghu's brother Jianglu, Shaoan and Xan Fei. Soon, the disciples of Soaring Heaven Mansion gathered together. On the other side, the Sky Yuan sect also did the same. However, they obviously had more people than Soaring Heaven Mansion. At this time there were already 30 people gathered. 15 people. I remember that 4 of our 4 mansions came. Who else is there? Jianghu asked in surprise. It's Wushan. Junior brother Wushan is not here. A disciple from the Profound Department answered. At the mention of this name, Jianglu also glanced at Yixian and said, Junior brother Wushan is dead. All of us are here. What? Dead? Big brother, what's going on? Jianghu asked in shock. He wasn't surprised because of Wushan's death, but because Jianglu knew about it. Let's talk about this later. Jianglu helplessly shook his head. Rumble. Rumble? Right after Jianglu finished speaking, a series of rumbling noises resounded. Everyone turned around and found that the entrance they came from was closed. Jianghu was startled and hurriedly unleashed a slash. However, this slash had no effect on these doors. His dantian instantly disintegrated upon contact. What a tough door. Jianghu was aghast. Yixian frowned and observed for a moment before speaking. This door's material is not ordinary and has a defensive formation. Not only that, the stone walls around it are the same. What? Hearing this, the 14 people present were shocked. They subconsciously attacked the door, but it was useless. One had to know that even an Earth Core warrior would have to retreat when facing the combined attacks of all of them. Looks like we're in trouble. Everyone thought in their hearts. Yixian also felt that this door was not ordinary, but he didn't know if Tianchong could break this door open. But first he had to take a look at where this place was. He looked around. Other than the Sky Yuan sect disciples not far away, there was only one thing left. In front of the stone wall in the north, there was a huge stone statue. When everyone's eyes fell on this stone statue, they couldn't help but exclaim. End of chapter. Chapter 240. Isn't this the stone statue at the entrance of the cave? Jianghu asked curiously. Yixian looked at it carefully. This stone statue was very similar to the one at the entrance, but there was something else in front of this stone statue. It was a bronze-colored greatsword in its right hand. The stone statue was over 30 meters tall, and its weapon was over 20 meters tall as well. Seeing this, Yixian's eyes lit up. This was definitely something good. However, right at this moment, the tightly shut eyes of Hui Yang's stone statue suddenly opened. Fuck. Yixian was shocked, and not only that, all the other men were so shocked that they started cursing out loud. Everyone. Another loud noise sounded out and everyone was startled. The stone statue was talking, and it was even raising the greatsword in its hand. Be careful everyone, this stone statue can move. Someone immediately reminded everyone. Yixian rolled his eyes. Did I need you to remind me? Everyone, I am Hui Yang, the owner of this cave. Don't be surprised when you hear this, I will be dead. This is just a voice recording stone that I recorded beforehand. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. They all had a bad premonition in their hearts. Now, I have a test here, and as long as you can pass it, you will be rewarded with a great opportunity. Now, I'm sure the entrance you came from is closed. I have set up defensive formations around the entrance and walls, and even a heavenly core warrior will need some time to break through them. I, Hui Yang, am a weapon craftsman and at the same time a formation master. If you haven't broken through to the heavenly core realm, I suggest you give up on breaking through the entrance. Let's cut to the chase. There is a stone statue of mine here, and what you need to do is destroy this stone statue. Once you destroy this stone statue, you will be able to obtain the celestial green stone inside it. That's right, it is the celestial green stone, a necessary material for crafting heavenly items. I found this celestial green stone by chance, but my abilities are limited, so I can't craft heavenly items. As long as someone destroys this stone statue, they will be able to obtain this celestial green stone. At the same time, a tunnel will open up behind me and the cave will collapse. Even a heavenly core warrior will be crushed by this giant rock and die. In 1 minute, the stone statue will activate and it will chase after the person closest to it. This stone statue of mine is also a gate. Unless you are a heavenly core warrior, it will be impossible to destroy it. At the same time, you will be able to break through to the heavenly core realm. But, when I was crafting this stone statue there were 6 flaws. As long as you find them in order, you will be able to destroy them. Remember, follow the order. Every 10 minutes the stone statue moves, it will stop for 10 minutes. If you want to destroy this stone statue, you have to do it while it is still moving. When it is still there are no flaws. When these voices fell into everyone's ears, it made them boil with excitement. Celestial green stone, it was actually a celestial green stone. This was an essential material for crafting heavenly items. This celestial green stone was equivalent to the entire cave's wealth. If they dropped it, they wouldn't have to worry about cultivation resources in the future, and breaking through to the heavenly core realm was just around the corner. Heavenly core realm. This was a realm that many people yearned for. After all, none of the overlord sects in the 4 major regions had a heavenly core warrior, and they had only heard about it in the central province. What should we do? We only have 1 minute left. The disciples from the Soaring Heaven Mansion were panicking. Not only that, all the disciples from the Heavenly Yuan sect were panicking as well. The stone statue was comparable to an Earth Core warrior, and even a Heavenly Core warrior would have a hard time breaking it. Unless they could find the flaws and they had to follow the order of the flaws, it would be extremely difficult. Right at this moment, a disciple from the Heavenly Yuan sect walked out and shouted, "Everyone from the Soaring Heaven Mansion, when the stone statue activates, we will attack it together and find its flaws. If not, we will all die here." Bullshit, do we need you to tell us that? A disciple from the Soaring Heaven Mansion said unhappily. What did you say? A disciple from the Heavenly Yuan sect immediately walked out as well. Right now, they were facing a powerful enemy and everyone's hearts were heavy. If they weren't careful, they might die here. That's why they were venting their anger. Stop arguing. A young man from the Heavenly Yuan sect walked out and said, "I'm Wang Chuanshan, ranked 3rd on the Heavenly Yuan ranking. I broke through to the Earth Core realm a while ago. When the stone statue activates, I will be able to hold it back. At that time, all of you will look for its flaws together." Hearing this, all the disciples from the Soaring Heaven Mansion were shocked. Earth Core Warrior, the Heavenly Yuan sect had sent out an Earth Core Warrior this time. This chapter is not finished, please turn the page. But luckily they had an Earth Core Warrior, or else who would dare to attract the stone statue's attention? "Alright, we'll have to trouble you then." Jianghu immediately shouted out as well. Half of the time had passed, and they used the remaining time to get into position. As for Wang Chuanshan, he ran in front of the stone statue. Just now Huiyang had said that the stone statue would kill the person closest to it. Therefore, when the stone statue activated, Wang Chuanshan's aggro would be the highest. There was only 1 minute left, and the dozens of people present did not have the time to discuss their strategy, so this was the only thing they could do. 5 more seconds. A disciple who was good at mental calculation shouted out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rumble. Indeed, as soon as he finished speaking, the stone statue also let out a rumbling sound. Then it started to take a big step forward. This step was at least 10 meters long. "The stone statue has activated, everyone attack." Wang Chuanshan shouted and immediately started to attack. Since there was a flaw, they still had a chance to survive. At this moment, Yi Xian had already taken out an earth tool bow. He was also trapped here, so he had to act. Someone must have touched the mechanism. When the sect leader was investigating this cave, he definitely didn't notice it. This is going to be a scam. Yi Xian felt helpless in his heart. He drew his bow and shot, but his first arrow actually missed. It was not because he did not aim properly, but because Huiyang's stone statue was too fast. What? Wang Chuanshan was also shocked. He quickly turned around and ran. Earth Core Realm, it really was an Earth Core Realm. Luckily, he had a mid-Earth Realm movement skill, so he was able to open up a distance in an instant. He also did not forget the rule that Huiyang had mentioned before, which was to kill the person closest to him. Therefore he did not dare to run too fast and could only maintain his speed. Swoosh. Boom. In an instant, hundreds of attacks landed on the stone statue, but these attacks had no effect on the stone statue. End of chapter. Chapter 241. Don't attack the same spot. Spread out your attacks and find the flaw. Someone reminded. Every second, hundreds of attacks would land on the stone statue puppet. However, the stone statue did not move at all. It directly passed between the Soaring Heaven Mansion and the Sky Yuan Sect's group and chased after Wang Chuanshan. Bang! The giant sword in the stone statue's right hand slashed down. A loud sound reverberated in the enclosed space, irritating everyone's eardrums. When Wang Chuanshan saw the power of the sword, his body trembled. He began to regret volunteering in the beginning. However, he could easily deal with such a crisis as long as he had enough Jindan origin energy in his body. In the first minute, everyone stood in place and attacked while Wang Chuanshan ran back and forth. It was the same in the second minute. However, in the third minute, Wang Chuanshan was out of breath. He was out of breath and had less than half of the Jindan origin energy left in his body. What was worse was that no one present had found the flaw. In other words, they had wasted a lot of energy and Jindan origin energy in the past 3 minutes. In the fourth minute, Wang Chuanshan made a decision in his heart. He would not be the bait anymore. He only had 1/3 of the Jindan origin energy left in his body. If he continued, he would be the first to die. Therefore he could only blame others. "Don't blame me for being heartless," Wang Chuanshan said in his heart. Suddenly he rushed toward the Soaring Heaven Mansion's group. Not good. Seeing this, the faces of the 15 people from the Soaring Heaven Mansion changed. They immediately scattered, including Yi Xian. Wang Chuanshan gritted his teeth and rushed toward a Huang Mansion's disciple. Then his body flashed and he passed by him. "Junior brother Chang." Someone shouted. However, in the next moment the person's expression froze. He saw that the Huang Mansion's disciple was cut in half by the giant sword. He died a horrible death. The first victim was finally born. If there was one, there would be two. After the stone statue killed this person, it chased after the nearest disciple. This disciple was also from the Soaring Heaven Mansion. "No, don't chase after me. Go after someone else." The disciple shouted a few times, but he could not avoid the giant sword. The attack was also cut in half. Now that Wang Chuanshan was out of danger, he shouted, "You bunch of trash, you still can't find an opening after attacking for so long." This meant that he was going to do it himself. The stone statue was chasing after the person closest to it. Coincidentally, the stone statue's target this time was Jianghu, who had just broken through to the initial mortal core realm. Not good. Jianghu, who was frantically running away, turned his head and saw that the stone statue was looking at him. He immediately ran forward with all his might, trying to put some distance between him and the stone statue. However, the stone statue had already locked onto him and chased after him. Jianghu was only at the initial mortal core realm, so of course he couldn't escape from this stone statue that was as strong as an earth core warrior. It quickly caught up with him. Second brother. Seeing this, Jianghu hurriedly shouted and used his special skill on the stone statue. However, his attack still had no effect. Not even a splash could be seen. Huff huff. The stone statue raised its right arm and slashed down with its sword. The speed of this attack was faster than Jianghu could react. I'm finished. A thought flashed through Jianghu's mind. With his ability, there was no way he could dodge this attack. The sword was getting closer and closer. But just as Jianghu was about to be cut in half, a white light suddenly appeared. After that, the stone statue's sword suddenly stopped in midair. Boom! A muffled sound was heard and everyone was startled. They focused their gazes and they were shocked to see another giant sword. However, this giant sword was not quite the same as the stone statue. This was a phantom formed by the condensation of Jindan essence. But because this giant sword had blocked the stone statue's attack, Jianghu didn't die from the attack. Who was it? Everyone looked towards the direction of the giant sword. They saw a young man holding the sword, and he was wearing the uniform of the heavenly abode in the soaring heaven mansion. Yixian. Jianghu was startled, then he shouted out in surprise. That's right, this young man was Yixian. And the move he was using now was the heaven-shaking strike of desolation that he had just learned. Senior brother, run? Yixian gritted his teeth and spat out a few words with difficulty. At this moment he was using all his strength. His muscles were stretched to the limit. His hands were trembling slightly as he held the heaven-shaking strike of desolation. The stone statue's strength had exceeded his expectations. He wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Jianghu also reacted and turned to run. But after running for a while, he realized that if he ran, wouldn't Yixian become the stone statue's target? He turned his head in shock, just in time to see Yixian's large sword image being slashed to the point of collapse. At the same time, Yixian also shot over like an arrow, directly circling behind the stone statue. Flaws. 6 flaws. If he couldn't find these 6 flaws, everyone here would definitely die, and he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. This stone statue must be supported by a formation, and the flaws of the stone statue were actually the flaws of the formation. Yixian also had the bloodline of a master of formation breaking. He had to get close to the statue in order to find these flaws. Although the stone statue was comparable to an earth core warrior, Yixian had all sorts of bloodlines and he had incredible speed and recovery ability. He had witnessed the stone statue's speed just now. He had a feeling that as long as nothing unexpected happened, he would be able to hold on for the first 10 minutes. Bang! The stone statue turned around and slashed at Yixian, but Yixian dodged it again. The combination of the 10,000 Beasts bloodline and the Thunderclap Panther bloodline allowed Yixian's speed to surpass an ordinary late mortal core warrior. If he were to use a movement skill as well, he might be even faster than Wang Chuanshan. Most importantly, this wasn't a test of explosive strength, it was a test of endurance. While the stone statue was still attacking, Yixian swallowed another pill that could quickly recover his core energy. Then he continued dodging the stone statue's attacks. All the spectators were stunned by what they saw. Who is this guy? Is he an Earth Core warrior from the Soaring Heaven Mansion? Impossible, there is only one Earth Core warrior in the Soaring Heaven Mansion, and that is the chief of the Divine Continent Alliance. But I heard that the chief went to the Central Province and hasn't returned yet. I'm sure he just broke through. No, this guy didn't rely on a movement skill, it's his strong physique. He was able to block the sword just now. How strong is his physique? All the spectators were so shocked that they forgot to attack. Not only that, all the fellow disciples from the Soaring Heaven Mansion were shocked as well. Yixian's strength has increased again. This speed is not something I can catch up with, Jianghu murmured to himself. In the next moment he suddenly remembered something and quickly shouted, "Everyone attack now! Find the flaws, don't let Yixian waste his energy." End of chapter. Chapter 242. Everyone hurry up and attack. Find the flaw, don't let Yixian waste his energy. Hearing this, the people present immediately reacted and launched another attack. Right now, only Yixian and Wang Chuanshan had the ability to attract the stone statue's aggro. If Yixian died, all of them would be wiped out. Yixian was able to maintain his speed, but his stamina and core energy were still decreasing. He had no idea how many minutes he could last. But he would try his best. After all, this was related to his life and death. The 7th minute had passed. The 8th minute had passed. When the 8th minute arrived, Yi Xian couldn't make ends meet. He had used the heavenly break to kill Shihang, so when he came back he had only recovered half of his core energy. Most importantly, he had been constantly moving around, and didn't have the time to absorb the pills. That was why his recovery was so slow. The 9th minute arrived. Yi Xian had also endured with great difficulty. But he still couldn't find the flaw on the stone statue, and neither could anyone else. In another minute, the stone statue would stop moving, and at that time the flaw would disappear. This meant that all of their efforts in the past 10 minutes would be in vain. However, right at this moment, a feeling suddenly surfaced in Yi Xian's heart. He immediately focused his gaze on her. "I found it." With his eyes wide open, he shouted out, "I found the flaw. It's 2 meters below the left joint of the stone statue." This shout entered the ears of the crowd, causing them to be startled. Flaw. The rest of the people didn't care about anything else, they just chose to believe him. They started attacking the spot Yi Xian pointed out. That spot had been attacked before, and it was slightly sunken compared to the rest of the stone statue. Because of this, Yi Xian was able to sense it. That spot was indeed the first flaw, but because it was covered by a layer of stone armor, no one else had discovered it. In an instant, dozens of divine core warriors circled behind the stone statue, then they started attacking its left hand. Crack. Crack. A series of cracking sounds were heard, causing everyone's emotions to skyrocket. "It's broken, it's broken. That's the flaw, everyone attack. We finally found the flaw. Quick, time's up, attack. Damn it. Break it." Everyone became excited and they started attacking crazily. But this stone armor was extremely hard. Dozens of divine core warriors had been attacking it for a long time, but they still couldn't break it. Left with no other choice, Yi Xian had to attack. Swoosh. Yi Xian suddenly flashed to the bottom of the stone statue, then took out his earth-ranked bow and shot an arrow. Mid-rank Earth ranks Fire Dragon Arrow. The moment Yi Xian released his right hand, a long flame snake condensed from Dan essence shot out and accurately collided with the stone armor. Crack. The stone was already on the verge of shattering, and Yi Xe Shuez and the stone. Countless rocks fell, and everyone saw the array patterns under the stone armor. Once again the attack was launched. Crack. The stone statue suddenly stopped moving. After that, a layer of energy appeared on the surface of the formation. It was the same as the layer of energy that covered the entire area. When the dozens of attacks landed on this layer of energy, they all disappeared. Not good, time's up. Yi Xian immediately reacted. 10 minutes had passed. The stone statue maintained its chopping motion, and stood there like a stone statue. All the other men had stopped attacking as well. This layer of energy was definitely a defensive formation, and it wasn't something they could break. Although it was a pity, at least they had found a flaw, and weren't at a loss of what to do. "Everyone hurry up and recover. The stone statue is going to attack again in 10 minutes. Jianghu shouted out loudly. Without hesitation, everyone sat down with their legs crossed and started recovering their core energy. During the first 10 minutes, although Yi Xian and Wang Chuanshan were the bait, the rest of the men were constantly attacking, and they didn't have much core energy left in their bodies. If they didn't recover as soon as possible, they wouldn't be able to last for the second 10 minutes. Yi Xian hurriedly sat down as well. This time he couldn't hold back anymore. He quickly took out some pills from his devouring space and threw them to the others. "Everyone use these pills to recover," Yi Xian shouted. These pills were much more valuable than the ones outside, and their effects were also very good. The disciples of the Soaring Sky Mansion swallowed them without hesitation. After that, he felt the Dan essence in his body recovering rapidly. Immediately he revealed a look of surprise. Yi Xian wasn't stingy either. He also threw a lot of pills to the people of the Heavenly Yuan sect. Although he had a conflict with the Heavenly Yuan sect before, it had been resolved. Moreover, they were now on the same side. Yi Xian still had to rely on the others to find a flaw. "Amazing. What kind of pill is this? My recovery speed is 3 times faster than before. Heavens, this kid has such a divine pill and he's even willing to share it with us. He's such a good person." Tisk Tsk senior brother Wang only lasted 3 minutes. He alone lasted 7 minutes. Tisk Tsk. Although this disciple didn't finish his sentence, the people around him nodded silently. In their hearts, Yi Xian was much more useful than Wang Chuanshan. An Earth Core Realm cultivator who could only last 3 minutes. How embarrassing. Wang Chuanshan, who was recovering at the side, glared at the people around him. At the same time he glanced at Yi Xian. However, he didn't say anything. It was more important to recover his core energy and stamina. He would deal with this after the crisis was over. The 10 minutes of rest was about to pass. At the 9th minute, the remaining people gathered at the back left of the stone statue. When the time was up, they would begin to attack the flaw. Yi Xian had also arrived in front of the stone statue. After recovering for a while, his expression had returned to normal. The pill he took just now was different from the others. One pill was worth 10 billion devouring points. This pill instantly recovered 30% of Yi Xian's core energy, and it could still be recovered slowly. At this time Yi Xian's core energy was more than half gone. It wouldn't be a problem for him to last another 10 minutes. Counting down to 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. One of the disciples shouted loudly. As soon as he finished speaking, the stone statue began to move. The sword that hadn't struck down just now directly struck the ground. At the same time, the defensive formation disappeared. The people below began to attack, and all of them attacked the flaw on the left hand of the stone statue. After the stone armor was destroyed, it became extremely fragile. In less than 2 rounds it exploded with a loud boom. Then half of the stone statue's arm fell to the ground. Success, success, we have successfully destroyed the first flaw. There's a sequence to the flaws. Quick, find the second one. The arm, it must be the right arm. Everyone attack. End of chapter. Chapter 243. No one knew who started yelling, but it led everyone to attack the right arm of the stone statue. But they couldn't be blamed for this. The giant sword of the stone statue had scared them. If they could destroy the right arm, the threat of this stone statue would be greatly reduced. Yi Xian didn't stop them. He dodged the stone statue's attack, then he dodged to the left arm of the stone statue. What? A ceiling formation? I can't devour it? He was shocked. The material of this stone statue was obviously not ordinary, and it was definitely worth a lot of money. But too bad there was a ceiling formation and it was a very advanced one. If it was a normal ceiling formation he could easily destroy it. But this Hui Yang was an expert in formations, and Yi Xian didn't have the confidence to destroy it. Besides, time didn't allow for it. Therefore he had to give up. Fuck, I've lost so much. Yi Xian cursed in his mind. He had acted as bait and ran around while risking being cut in half, but he didn't get anything. Instead he had lost a lot of pills. Therefore he was very angry. Crack. Right at this moment, a subtle sound entered Yi Xian's ears. A flaw. Another flaw. Yi Xian quickly raised his head and looked. Sure enough, he found a strange spot. But this flaw wasn't on the arm. He immediately shouted, "The second flaw is at the center of the back of the hand." Hearing this, everyone once again boiled with excitement. The center of the back of the hand, this was a pretty good spot. As long as they destroyed the second flaw, perhaps the giant sword would fall from the statue? But there was another problem. This stone statue was attacking with the giant sword, and its attack speed was very fast. Therefore, it was very difficult for its attack to land on the back of the right hand. This stage took a lot of time. Those who had just broken through to the mortal core realm had almost used up all their core energies. 5 minutes later, with a loud rumbling sound, the stone statue's wrist suddenly broke and fell to the ground. Haha, it's finally down. Everyone's face lit up with joy. Without the giant sword, the stone statue's threat was greatly reduced. It could only attack with its feet and arms. Then someone found the third flaw, which was on the joint of the right arm of the statue. However, due to the lack of Jindan essence in his body, he was unable to overcome this weakness. He could only leave it for next time. It was a 10-minute break. Yi Xian hurriedly recovered his Jindan essence and stamina. The others did the same. Some even sat down cross-legged to recover before the break was over. 10 minutes passed quickly. Yi Xian started to attract the stone statue's aggro again. The others started to attack the third weak point. In less than 3 minutes, the stone statue's arm fell off. Now its only means of attack were its legs. Once it used its legs to attack, the pressure on Yi Xian was instantly reduced and he became more at ease. Another 10 minutes passed, and the statue's right leg was broken. It began to wobble as it walked, but it was no longer a threat. Next was his left calf. Now he had already destroyed 5 of the flaws. Only one was left. At this time there weren't many people who still had energy left. The stone statue's threat was also greatly reduced. Most of the people present should be able to avoid the stone statue's attack. But now everyone was silent. They no longer looked for flaws but gathered together. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. It was time to settle the score. Wang Chuanshan, why did you lure the stone statue to my soaring heaven mansion? What was the meaning of this? The leader of the Soaring Heaven Mansion, Jianghu, walked out and asked coldly. I volunteered to be the bait, but that doesn't mean I'm willing to sacrifice myself. If I don't lure it to your side, do you expect me to lure it to my Sky Yuan sect? Wang Chuanshan explained. He believed that no matter who it was, they would lure the stone statue to the other side. This was human nature. At this time Yi Xian suddenly walked out and said, "Then why didn't you tell me in advance and let me take over? Are you kidding me? Your Soaring Heaven Mansion's eldest senior disciple isn't here, and you don't even have an Earth Core warrior. How would I know you have the ability to lure the stone statue away?" Wang Chuanjun glanced at the stone statue with all 4 broken limbs not far away. Right now, that stone statue was being lured by a Sky Yuan sect disciple who was at the initial mortal core realm. Alright, let's not talk about this for now. Now this stone statue only has one flaw left. As long as we destroy this stone statue, we'll be able to get the heavenly blue. This chapter does not end, please turn the page. Let's talk about how we're going to split it. Jianghu said loudly. When the heavenly blue was mentioned, Wang Chuanjuan's eyes turned cold. He shouted, "Alright, how do you want to split it?" Jianghu glanced at Yi Xian, whose face was pale and on the verge of collapsing. He slowly said, "Let me analyze this. Firstly, besides the 3 minutes you spent at the beginning, Yi Xian was risking his life to attract the stone statue's attention. Secondly, if it wasn't for the pills Yi Xian gave you, all of your core energies would have been used up long ago. I'm afraid all of you wouldn't be as useful as all of us. Thirdly, you Wang Chuanshan lured the stone statue here, causing 2 of our disciples to be killed by it. Fourthly, it was Yi Xian who discovered all the flaws in the stone statue. Therefore, I think all of you should at most take 20% of the heavenly blue." When Jianghu's voice fell, Wang Chuanshan's face immediately changed. He shouted, "Bullshit. If it weren't for me, even if you were given 20 minutes, you still wouldn't be able to destroy a single weak point. I want 50% of the heavenly blue. 50%. That's an even split." Although the Sky Yuan sect had twice the number of disciples compared to the Soaring Heaven Mansion, according to Jianghu, they weren't that useful. After Wang Chuanshan spoke, the disciples behind him looked at each other, then they lowered their heads in shame. They weren't fools. The fact that the Soaring Heaven Mansion was willing to give them 20% was already giving them a lot of face. If they really wanted to calculate, they would only get 10%. However, Wang Chuanshan was asking for 50%. He was simply asking for an exorbitant price. He was too thick-skinned. What a joke. How can your contribution be worth 50%? Jianghu almost died of anger. He was already very kind to give them 20%, but Wang Chuanshan still wanted 50%. This was simply wishful thinking. "Senior brother, At this time one of the Sky Yuan sect's disciples suddenly whispered. "Shut up, I didn't ask you to speak." Wang Chuanshan didn't wait for him to finish and directly reprimanded him. He had clearly heard the group's whispers just now. The disciple shrunk his neck and hurriedly retreated, not daring to speak anymore. Who was Wang Chuanshan? He was the expert ranked 3rd on the Sky Yuan ranking, and he was also the disciple of the Sky Yuan sect master. They didn't dare to offend him. End of chapter. Chapter 244. How overbearing. Wang Chuanshan, it seems like you think you can defeat us? Jianghu narrowed his eyes. So what if I am? You bunch of trash who haven't even reached the Earth Core realm dare to compete with me? Wang Chuanshan was already blinded by the celestial blue stone. If he could, he would definitely choose to take it for himself. Although you have a lot of people, how many of you can fight? Jianghu couldn't help but ask. Just now, when Yi Xian gave out the pills, he had also been careful and gave a lot of them to the senior brothers of the Soaring Sky Mansion. As for the Heavenly Yuan sect's disciples, they were barely enough. Most importantly, Yi Xian's strength didn't seem to be any weaker than Jianghu's, so if they really fought, it was hard to say who would win. Then you can try. Wang Chuanshan actually also noticed this, but there were still more than 30 people standing behind him. On the other hand, the Soaring Heaven Mansion only had 15 people. Now that 2 of them had died, there were only 3 left. The numbers were completely out of proportion, and Wang Chuanshan himself was an Earth Core Realm warrior, so he had no reason to be afraid. If that's the case, then let's rely on our own abilities. Jianghu was already prepared to fight to the death, and this was also the intention of the other disciples. Alright, let's rely on our own abilities. Wang Chuanshan's eyes flashed. If they were to rely on their own abilities, who here was stronger than him? In his eyes, Yi Xian was only a faster person. If they really fought, he was nothing to be afraid of. If that's the case, then let's work together to find the 6th flaw. After Jianghu said this, he led the other disciples and rushed over. At the same time, Xian secretly gave each of them a pill, the one that was worth 10 billion devour points. A total of 16 people entered the cave. Wu Shan from the Profound Department died, and because of Wang Chuanshan 2 more died. Now, excluding Xian, there were still 12 people from the Soaring Heaven Mansion. In other words, Xian used 120 billion devour points in one go. No one noticed that his hand was trembling when he gave out the pills, which was a sign of pain. Although his action was very subtle, it was still noticed by Wang Chuanshan. The latter furrowed his brows and his eyes flickered. The stone statue didn't pose much of a threat right now. An initial mortal core warrior could easily play around with it. But at this stage, both Soaring Heaven Mansion and Heavenly Yuan sect had started to be cautious. They had started to conserve their core energies. Physical strength because they didn't know if there would be a big battle coming up. The 6th weakness on the back. Ants, that's why. That's why he directly pointed. Earlier on, everyone had already discovered that there was a large door at the bottom of the stone wall that the stone statue was facing. It was most likely the exit. Right now, most of the people were facing the back of the stone statue. Their backs were facing the door. The people from the Soaring Heaven Mansion had secretly discussed. Once the heavenly blue rock appeared, Xian would be the one to snatch it. As for the people from the Heavenly Yuan sect, it would be the Earth Core warrior Wang Chuanshan. Crack. A cracking sound could be heard from the back of the stone statue. A piece of the stone armor was cracked. Everyone's eyes lit up when they saw this. The heavenly blue rock was about to appear. The heavenly blue rock that even heavenly core warriors would go crazy for. Right now, Xian and Wang Chuanshan were ready to snatch it. Xian's nerves were tense to the extreme. This thing was too important to him. As long as he could get his hands on the heavenly blue rock, he would be able to devour it. At that time he would at least break through to the Earth Core realm. He might even break through to the early Earth Core realm, late Earth Core realm, or even the Heavenly Core realm. This was a huge opportunity, he couldn't miss it. Crack. The back of the stone statue suddenly cracked open. After that, the formation's foundation was destroyed by countless attacks. All 6 flaws were destroyed. Where did it appear? Xian opened his eyes wide. Huiyang had told him that the heavenly blue rock was inside the stone statue. Wang Chuanshan was also staring at the stone statue. He didn't dare blink his eyes. Crack. Right at this moment, the back of the stone statue suddenly cracked open, and it split in half. At the same time, a bright green gem came into everyone's sight, and it lit up the walls. Heavens, a fist-sized heavenly blue rock? Jianghu was shocked. He knew a thing or two about equipment refining, and according to what he knew, a fingernail-sized heavenly blue rock was enough to make a heavenly item. However, this heavenly blue rock was the size of a fist. Its value was immeasurable. It was enough to buy the entire Soaring Heaven Mansion, or even the entire Heavenly Yuan sect. Everyone went crazy. The moment the heavenly blue rock appeared, Xian and Wang Chuanshan also made their move. Xian didn't hesitate to use his points to exchange for a mid-grade Earth-level movement technique. He rushed forward at full speed. What? Wang Chuanshan was shocked. He was running at full speed, but he saw Xian's afterimage in front of him. He didn't expect Xian to be so fast that even he could only see Xian's afterimage. Wang Chuanshan wasn't stupid. He knew that he couldn't get the heavenly blue rock immediately, so he could only stop and wait for Xian to come back. After all, there was only one escape route, right? However, what happened next almost dislocated everyone's jaws. Xian was even more furious. Just as Xian was about to touch the fist-sized heavenly blue rock, it was suddenly ejected by a mechanism in the stone statue. This speed was even faster than Xian's. F***ck. Huiyang F***ck your cousin. Xian roared in his heart. He was about to grab the heavenly blue rock, but it was ejected by some mechanism. Heaven and hell were really separated by a single thought. When Wang Chuanshan saw this, he was so happy that he almost died. He hurriedly turned around and gave chase. The 2 groups of people from the Soaring Heaven Mansion and the Heavenly Yuan sect were also shocked. By the time they reacted, Wang Chuanshan had already passed them. He directly jumped onto the wall and grabbed the heavenly blue rock. Hand over the heavenly blue rock. Xian was furious. He shouted and chased after him. Rumble. As luck would have it, the door suddenly opened right after the celestial blue stone was ejected. Wang Chuanshan landed on the ground and hurriedly passed through the gap. Xian followed behind Wang Chuanshan and rushed in. The difference in time was about 2 seconds. End of chapter. Chapter 245. After Yi Xian and Wang Chuanshan left the cave, the entire cave began to tremble, and dust kept falling from the ceiling. At this moment, Jianghu and the others realized that once the stone statue was destroyed, the entire cave would collapse. Let's go, let's get out of here quickly. Jianghu shouted in a low voice and hurriedly rushed into the passage. The escape tunnel was very dark and steep. Yi Xian was able to use sound waves to locate his position. But when he was chasing after Wang Chuanshan at full speed, he was shocked to find that Wang Chuanshan was getting further and further away from him. How could this be possible? He must be using some kind of skill to increase his strength. Yi Xian immediately reacted. At this moment he was a little hesitant because he also knew this skill, the exploding aperture skill. But this exploding aperture skill had a fatal side effect. After using it, the user's cultivation level would drop, and this effect would last for half a month. Normally, it would be 3 apertures exploding, but there was another type where all 7 apertures exploded. The consequences were very serious, and that was the loss of all cultivation, and the user would have to start from scratch. But now Yi Xian couldn't care less. Poof. 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 3 muffled sounds could be heard. 3 apertures in Yi Xian's body exploded, and his core energy had also skyrocketed. When he used the exploding aperture skill earlier, he was only at the peak of the true profound realm, and the increase in his strength was huge. But now he was at the initial mortal core realm, so the increase in his strength was very small. But this was better than nothing, at least it wouldn't cause him to be left behind. 10 seconds later, Yi Xian also rushed out of the darkness and landed on the ground. He quickly turned around and saw a figure 100 meters away. It was Wang Chuanshan. This Wang Chuanshan was thinking the same thing as Yi Xian. He wanted to take the celestial blue rock for himself. Thus the two of them started a chase. How is this possible? With my speed, why can't I catch up with him? Yi Xian was shocked. He thought that Yi Xian must be using a mid-earth rank martial skill, 1 rank higher than the exploding aperture skill. He was very vexed because there were very few martial arts like the exploding aperture technique. The exploding aperture technique was currently the best one that Yi Xian could use. The celestial bluestone was more important to him than anyone else. He could not let Wang Chuanshan leave. F***CKU I Yi Xian will fight it out with you. Yi Xian cursed in his heart. There were 4 muffled sounds. Po, 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 po. The remaining 4 chakras had all been destroyed by him. Now all 7 of his chakras had been destroyed. As long as this continued, he would lose all of his cultivation and would have to start cultivating from the first grade of the martial path. However, the 7 apertures explosion had increased his speed by at least 30%. Wang Chuanshan, I will kill you. Yi Xian glared and chased after him with all his might. If looks could kill, Wang Chuanshan would have died countless times. However, the heavens did not want Yi Xian to get the celestial bluestone. Just as his chakras were about to explode, a basin-sized green bird suddenly appeared not far away. The green bird approached at lightning speed, then extended its claws and pierced Wang Chuanshan's head. What? Yi Xian stopped in his tracks. The scene in front of him was so sudden that even he could not react. When he saw it clearly, the green bird had already grabbed the celestial bluestone. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Xian rushed to within 100 meters of Wang Chuanshan. He immediately took out an earth-grade bow and arrow, then raised his hand and shot an arrow. Mid-earth rank martial skill, Fire Dragon Arrow. A huge fire snake shot out, and the surrounding temperature seemed to rise by 5 degrees. However, this martial skill was not good at penetrating, so its speed was not fast. The green bird easily dodged it. Beep. It let out a cry, glanced at Yi Xian with its dark green eyes, then turned around and left. Wang Chuanshan's body fell limply to the ground. His head had been pierced through by the green bird's sharp claws. Plop. After seeing Wang Chuanshan's body, Yi Xian swallowed a mouthful of saliva. An Earth Core warrior was killed by that bird. This meant that this bird was at least an Earth Core Shen beast. It might even be an initial Earth Core Shen beast or a profound Earth Core Shen beast. Danger. Yi Xian smelled the scent of danger. However, could he just watch as the celestial bluestone was taken away by that green bird? Impossible. Fight. Yi Xian gritted his teeth and chased after it, not even bothering to look at Wang Chuanshan's body. In the next moment he realized that the green bird was extremely fast. It was fast, at least much faster than him. In the blink of an eye, it escaped from his attack range. Damn it. Yi Xian cursed again. However, it wasn't because of the green bird's speed, it was because there was a canyon in front of him that was at least 200 to 300 meters wide. That green bird had already flown to the sky above the canyon. It's only 300 meters. Watch me jump over it. Xian was also muddle-headed. He swore that he would chase after that hateful green bird even if it cost him his life. Wasn't it just a canyon? With Xian's speed, his 10,000 beasts bloodline, and the jumping ability of the thunderclap leopard, he would definitely be able to jump over it. Go! When Xian was about to reach the edge of the cliff, he had already reached his maximum speed. He accurately rushed to the edge of the cliff and stepped on the edge. However, just as he was about to jump, the green bird in front of him suddenly opened its beak, followed by a sharp sound that made people tremble. Beep. The sound was like a demonic sound. When it entered Xian's ears, it instantly crushed his will. At? This was the last thought in Xian's mind. Then he fainted and fell into the canyon that was several hundred meters high. Looking at Xian in the middle of the canyon, the green bird shrieked in disdain. It seemed to be saying, "Stupid human, how dare you chase after me?" In its eyes, Xian was definitely going to die after falling into this abyss. If Xian hadn't fused with the 10,000 beasts bloodline, he would probably have fallen into pieces. However, that was not the case now. This canyon was about 300 meters high. Xian had the thunderclapped leopard bloodline. When he fell from a high place, regardless of whether he landed on his feet or not, he had the ability to cushion the fall. Plop. A muffled sound echoed in the canyon. Xian fell to the bottom of the canyon, accompanied by the sound of bones breaking. Just now Xian had fainted after being sung by the green bird. Now that he had fallen to the bottom of the canyon, he felt that half of his bones were broken. At this moment he actually still had some consciousness. It was like being woken up by his mother in the morning when he was still a student. He lay there quietly and slowly regained consciousness. However, he felt that he couldn't move. End of chapter.